All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to. Wow, I can hear you through your TV. Hear me myself through my TV. Anyway, welcome to Main Chat Nerd Night. A bunch of us folks on a mutual Discord server just decided to get together and play some Dungeons and Dragons. We got a couple of things going on right now. Our rogue Zook is actually not going to be here for a little bit, so we're going to have to sort of play that by ear. I'll be taking over his part for a little bit. So just to give everybody a little bit of a recap of what's been going on. That is the Monday group's recap. Let me flip to the correct page. There we go. Our group, when they first started out, arrived at a small hamlet by the name of Darnek. They saw a couple of very interesting and somewhat fishy things going on. They ran into an individual by the name of Larasa who asked them to acquire some documentation so that she would be able to go into the neighboring territory of Dulstrand, which is not a part of the Kingdom of Sundi where they currently are. They left town, they encountered a couple of things along the road, and they made their way to the capital of the county they were in, Hestmark. While they were in Hestmark, they went around, did a couple of things. They stayed at an inn called the Fates Draw, which is more or less also a gambling institution. They went out, they did some shopping, they met up with a magic user by the name of Alwea, purchased some magic items. Two of the party members, Shigun and Zook, made their way to the castle of Hestmark and actually stole some documents about the history of a house, a minor noble house in Sundi called House Tarmyran, which is also some of the information that Larasa was looking for. After that, on their way out, they decided to go to a house that was marked on their map that had been given to them by Larasa, but it had no explanation. It was just marked and it said Laos. They went to this place. They met up with an old drunkard by the name of Nald, who implored them to go find his son, who had been kidnapped and sent to the capital city of Pitchfield, the capital city of the entire kingdom of Sundi. On their way out, they spotted a more or less a hidden doorway in the outside wall. Nald's hovel was outside the city walls. They found a hidden doorway in the city wall. They investigated a little bit and decided not to pursue. So, it's roughly mid-morning, and you're at the doorway. Door's closed. What would you like to do?
Prudence is typing right now.
Okay, I'm actually taking a moment to update a thing real quick.
So, okay.
Well,
All right.
move that over here.
Let me see.
Well, we could make preparations to head to the capital if we want to look for this guy's son.
Do we want to entertain the notion about the door anymore, or are we just going to move on? Because I had an idea of something to check for.
What's your idea?
I'll wait till Prudence finishes. Well, on that note, I was wondering if my familiarity with the city, having been there before, might lead me to have greater insight as to where the door might lead based off of what we can find in its immediate vicinity. So is that something I can look for?
Yeah, I mean, you did open the door, and you opened it up, and you peeked in, and it was more or less into a hallway that led to either direction. You didn't see anything immediately in the area. The hallway looked a little narrow. This isn't... From your time while you were here, before the adventure started, you wouldn't really have had a reason to come in this direction. So...
I suspected as much. Can you still hear your voice through the stuff?
No, I don't have an echo anymore. We're good.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure that wasn't...
Zuga's behind you with his arms crossed, just tapping his foot, going... Now I can hear myself again. But, just tapping his foot, going, well, let's go somewhere. As he does.
Do we know about how far the capital is? Like approximately how many days it would take to travel there?
Rurik definitely knows this. He knows it's about 2 weeks travel.
Ooh.
Ooh, 2 weeks travel. Dang.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Let me see. Here we go.
I,
Let me pull out the map so I can show people where you are.
I partially worry that if we travel to the capital, we're gonna find a bajillion more things to do on top of the like 6 we currently have.
And I will mark you with the blue game piece. You are right here.
Alright, I should open myself do not disturb so I don't get these notifications on here.
Okay. Prudence just says, well, if we'd like to continue this path, I think it would be a good idea for me to perhaps, and he looks over at his familiar deer who's on his shoulder, provide deer with a more adequate form. Perhaps an owl might be an excellent choice.
An owl sounds exquisite.
It will take me about an hour to unsummon and resummon a familiar. And 10 gold, which he also doesn't have. I can still hear a bit of an echo.
Mechanics question. I know a lot of spell components require things that are worth X gold, but can you just consume the amount of gold required?
So the way I run it, just the way I handle it, homebrew, I can still hear quite a bit of an echo, but the way I handle it is that if it's worth less than 100 gold, you can just pay the gold cost outright. If it's worth more than 100 gold, for example, like the spell Hero's Feast requires a chalice worth 1,000 gold. In that case, I would require that you have that thing on hand. Unless you're in a city and you can just say, oh, we go out and buy this thing, then that's fine.
I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just
like
the way
if it's
I
an
handle
item
it.
of significance that's like flavorful for the spell, then yeah.
Right, so like in this case, Find Familiar, the spell Find Familiar requires 10 gold pieces of, I believe it's, what is it, ash? I'd have to look up the spell description, but let's see, Find Familiar, it's charcoal, incense, and herbs, so that's fine, you just give up the 10 gold and call it a day.
Yeah. I don't mind waiting and loaning the cost of the materials for that. Like I could use this time to forage the area for more herbs and stuff for myself.
I don't mind waiting if Prudence feels like his changing familiar would be better. I'm fine with waiting.
And Zook kind of looks at the rest of the group. Well, alright, fine. I gotta find something else to do, but maybe we'll see if that old dude has some more alcohol. I don't know. The hell was his name? Nald?
No.
Yes. No.
Yes, it was nulled.
Sure, that one.
I'll go ahead and hand 10 gold to Prudence. And while he works on reforming his familiar, I would like to forage the area for herbs useful for my purposes.
Okay. Go ahead and make an investigation check. And if you're already proficient in investigation, add your proficiency mod again, because you're also for your herbalism kit.
I do not have proficiency in investigation specifically.
Then add proficiency.
Okay, so just add proficiency.
So as Prudence, he sort of sits up against the wall, actually, and sits down cross-legged, puts a small depression into the ground, and makes a small smudge pot, if you will, and lights a little bit of incense. He takes Deer and holds her out on a finger, and she just disappears. And as he's focusing, you just hear him mutter some words in the arcane language as he's doing this. So 13. So you go around this area. Unfortunately, being so close to a city, it's not particularly productive. That said, you do find, let's see. Okay. You do find the remnants of, apparently the winery that Nald takes care of used to be much larger. So you do find the remnants of some more crops and so on. So you are able to find about 1 healing potion's worth of materials. So you can mark that down, and then when you have time, you can craft that.
About how much time would it take to craft something like that?
I believe healing potions take a day, but let me grab Xanathar's guide, because it's actually in there.
Oh man, that's a long craft time.
I'm assuming that's quite some time, so...
I imagine that's also time spent being stationary as well.
Right, time in one place. Let's see. Downtime activities. Blah, blah, blah. Nope, that's Dungeon Master's tools. Weird stuff. I love that there's a table called weird stuff.
It's just called weird stuff. I love it.
Yep, that's literally all it says. Weird stuff. Yeah. So a common potion, because you haven't crafted any before, takes a day.
I assume it gets better over time as you become more practiced?
Not per the rules, but that's how I'd handle it, yes. I'd say as you become better at this kind of thing, you definitely can take less time to craft common health potions.
Sure thing.
Right. Yeah, so a potion of healing takes 1 day. It costs per the table. It costs 25 gold in materials. However, I would bring that down to 10 just for the cost of the glass vial, and just 1 or 2 things that you can't really forage. Everything else you foraged on your own, so you don't have to take that full 25 gold cost.
Fair. Next time I'm around, I'll have to consider buying some vials.
Okay. So is there anything else anyone would like to do for the next hour or so while Prudence is summoning a Deer 2.0?
Nothing specific from me. I'll just hang out nearby.
Okay.
Yes, I still have 1 potion of greater healing that we picked up, and I think there's 1 or 2 other potions dispersed among our group, but I can't remember who has them.
I believe, if I recall correctly, you have identified all the items you have at this point, because you spent a little bit of time in the previous night to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you had a... This is why you gotta write that shit down, guys. I think...
Well, I had them written down, but I gave them to someone else, so I removed them from my own sheet because they were no longer in my inventory.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just gonna have to turn you down very, very slightly.
Sorry.
No, it's on my end. Nope, it's on my end. It's not on your end. All right. So the hour goes by. Zook kind of wanders over and starts taking grapes off the vines and eating his fill. Yes, go ahead and roll for your portents.
Ah, yes, those things.
So remember, just mechanics reminder, portents have to be called... That's a good spread. Portents have to be called before the roll happens. Once I've called a number, then you wouldn't be able to replace that with a portent number.
Right.
Before the roll happens. Alrighty, so at the conclusion of the ritual, the little brass brazier that Prudence carries around with him suddenly, and a bright flash of light, all the materials in the brass brazier are gone. There's no soot or anything. A big cloud of smoke rolls up, and in the center of the brazier is a small... What type of owl would you like her to be? If it matters. If not, I'm going to say barn owl. I don't have a barn owl mini to swap out for the raven that I have.
I'm here now.
Hello.
Hello, Zook. Welcome back. You are currently eating grapes because that's what I decided you were going to do.
Okay.
So Deer has just been resummoned as a barn owl, and you are all still sort of clustered around this more or less hidden doorway that you found on the outside wall. So
What's the immediate plan?
owls, I believe, can fly stealthily. Let me double check in the monster manual, but I believe they do actually have silent flight. And if not, that's stupid.
I should hope so, as owls are known for being silent. When they're being vocal.
Yes. Yeah, they have a very significant stealth bonus, good lord. Alright. So what would you like to do at this point? It's been about an hour, because that's about how long it took to perform the Find Familiar ritual.
We need
Flyby?
So flyby is the owl doesn't provoke opportunity attacks at all.
Oh.
And Prudence turns to Zook. Now that you're actually physically here, and he says, "How do you feel about going inside?" And he points a thumb over his shoulder at the doorway.
I still don't think it's the best idea.
All right.
I feel like we should maybe like try and see what's on the other side of the wall. Try and explore it from that direction, where it won't seem like we're trying to break into the castle. So maybe Prudence is trying to. Yeah.
Yeah, we could try the owl.
We also need to determine what our long-term action is going to be. If we actually want to head to the capital to look for this guy's son, or if we want to stick around the immediate area for.
So Zook, what you missed when we were here, the important mechanical thing, it's going to be about a 2-week trip from here to Pitchfield, the capital of Sundi. So it's going to be a little bit of time.
I feel like we have higher success in finding Lorasa's stuff in this capital, but there's a good chance we could find it here as well.
And what was that, Pitchfield? What were you trying to find there?
Pitchfield is the capital city where Nald said his son had been kidnapped and brought to.
Nald was the old guy from last week. Or 2 weeks, last session.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I don't know, as of yet.
Well, my suggestion is if we do decide to go to Pitchfield, we should spend the rest of the day making preparations and then set out first thing in the morning, since it's going to be a 2-week trip.
At this point, it's about noon-ish. The sun's roughly centered in the sky.
And again, that's if we decide to make that journey.
Is there a time limit on the Elf Lady's mission?
She didn't specify one.
Nah. Not to our knowledge, anyway.
Okay, how are we to get back to her when we finish the mission? Or to like meet her at an inn or something?
I figured we would be returning to Darnek in that regard.
Yeah, like meet her somewhere in Darnek? Because then I'm wondering, like, how long is she gonna wait for that?
That's a good point.
Just a small reminder, Larasa did mention that she does live in Darnek, and she performs various tasks for the people of Darnek, so she'll be there.
That's right,
Oh,
she does.
at least-
She's a local.
At least from what she told you. She said she's like a local hunter.
So yeah,
more
we
or less.
would. It makes sense to us that we would that she would stay be in town for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so she's waiting. She's gonna wait. She doesn't have like any other pressing plans, or this mission isn't like particularly urgent for her, or something.
If
And
she did,
Prudence.
she didn't convey that. us.
Yeah, she didn't impress upon us any degree of urgency.
I say my vote goes to heading to the capital because my concern is we could find more information here in the castle, but I think we might have exhausted a good chunk of it.
You also stole some documents.
Borrowed? It's a library. We borrowed.
But yeah, speaking of that, I feel like our pretense here might be wearing a bit thin.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's my suggestion. My suggestion is we spend the day preparing and we can set out tomorrow morning. What do you guys think?
That seems fair. I have some ingredients that I could make potions with, and I'd like to pick up some vials for them.
I'm going to assume that last one, Prudence, was said in jest, or would you like me to actually vocalize that to the group?
I was pretty sure it was in jest as well.
For reference, for those watching for the first time, the player, Omega, who plays Prudence, who plays Prudence, doesn't use the microphone, so I voice for them. So Prudence
what was the capital city called again?
Pitchfield.
Pitchfield.
I'll throw it in the
Pitchfield.
chat.
Yeah, right? It sounds so mundane. It sounds like a farmer's town.
It does, doesn't it?
Unless it actually is a farmer's town, just a really big one.
It grew out of control.
It grew out.
That's why all the farmers live there.
So Prudence just says, well, if she doesn't wait for us, we can always just track her down and kill her in revenge. And you all kind of look at him funny, and he goes, ha, ha.
Probably not. I don't see us doing that.
And as this is happening, Deer is sort of flitting around, hopping about, much the way ravens do, despite her new, somewhat larger and bulkier owl form.
In response to that joke, I will the jazz music to stop.
Yeah, so as this is happening, we go over to the background music and just... Alright.
Bard's jazz music? That makes me wish I was playing a bard right now.
Hey, you never know. I don't have anything against multi-classing, just make sure you know what that entails before you do it.
I know. But bard wouldn't fit my character, though.
Yes,
Anyway.
a medicine man turning to religion in an hour of need. No, I don't think that would work very well. Okay, so what are we gonna be doing?
Well, I am rather uncertain about whether to stay or go. But
As you're all talking, Prudence just kind of pipes up in the middle of the conversation and goes, "Did you know that owl eyes are not spheres like other animals? They're closer to like a cylinder." And you can see like a smile on his face for one of the very rare smiles that he gives, and the rest of you are just kind of okay.
I did not know that.
I see. How interesting.
I'll have to note that down. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure, like, what's the best way to proceed, just in general.
Well,
but I am not a very... I'm not a very spiritual sort of person, but I sense that the fates are trying to push us towards Pitchfield, or trying to tell us that there's something important in Pitchfield.
Hey, if I was gonna railroad you into Pitchfield, you would have been there by now. Let's be honest.
That's fair.
All of a sudden, you just see Deer 2.0 take off and fly up to the top of the wall. Go ahead and make a perception check for Deer. Her new perception is +3. So go ahead and continue with your conversation. I'll just sort of do this in parallel.
Ooh.
She gets to the top of the wall. There are some guards. You see over the wall. You can see there's the castle on the other side. Nothing in particular of note comes up. She goes down towards the bottom of the wall, roughly about where you are. Okay. So she's going to take her time. I'll say not immediately, but in a little bit I'll ask you to roll another perception for her, just because she's taking her time. And as the rest of you are talking, that is the prompt for you to continue your conversation.
I'm okay with moving on to Pitchfield, but I do agree with Shigun in that I feel that since it's a longer journey, it would behoove us to make proper preparations for it.
Yeah. And like what are our leads left in this town?
We still have yet to acquire a writ of passage to the name escapes me.
Right, let me check the document.
Goldstrand, yes, thank you.
That's true, but
Passage to Goldstrand. Do we have the Cindy letter? I think we do. Do we?
The Sundi letter?
The letter to Passage through Sundi.
At this
I'm just
moment,
looking at my notes here.
I don't believe you have gotten any documents at this point.
No, we
don't have any documents yet. We're just trying to follow leads.
The best thing we have right now is information about House Talmyran.
Yeah,
that's something
we definitely.
Yeah, we've got some confirmed information there.
We definitely do.
Prudence, go
have
ahead.
We copied those documents, by the way? Have we made copies?
Oh, this would be a good time to do that, actually.
Well,
yeah.
You currently still have the originals.
Just to remind Ember, when I hit level 3, I could take proficiency in an artisan set. I took calligraphy on there. On my study.
You did mention that. Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So
wait, who took calligraphy?
I did. Shigun did.
Shigun.
Ah.
So with calligrapher's tools, it's a little bit. It takes less time, and the copies are more exact, basically.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would be best for Shigun to make those copies in that case.
They don't necessarily have to be accurate because we're not posing for them, but we just need to copy the information.
Yeah.
Would you still need to pick up a set of calligrapher's tools while we're here?
I should, yes.
We're not that familiar with House Talmyran. Who knows what information in these documents might end up becoming important?
I will say, just because you leveled up while you were in the city, you could run out and get a set of calligrapher's tools. It's 1 copper, so you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I'll add that. Can I go ahead and add that to my inventory now?
Yeah, go ahead and throw that in your inventory. The calligrapher's tools are a quill, a bottle of ink, and a blotter. It's not a lot. So Prudence pipes up. Well, if we're gonna be going out to the capital, we should probably maybe look into a courier job. I mean, we can definitely gonna come back here. So if we courier out to the city and come back, then that gives us a reason to be on the road, maybe.
That would be a great way to curry some favor.
And yeah, that reminds me that we should probably resolve our situation here. Like, I'm just thinking that, like, okay, we have the documents. I wasn't really paying attention to which, but either we borrowed them as per usual from a library, as one does, or we stole them. In the latter case, like, it's still important to make, copies so that we still have the information. These seem like the kind of documents that someone wants to destroy. But if we did just borrow them, then we should be returning the originals.
As an aside, just a side note, the book that Shigun is currently in possession of, you do recall, had pages ripped out of it. The references to House Talmyran were in a footnote, and then the next page were ripped out. So, just to remind you of that.
Also jot down the title of the book. There might be other copies elsewhere.
That's a good point.
Might be.
It's in Thursday channel. I don't remember the title, but it's in there.
I mean, this doesn't seem like the sort of kingdom to make use of, what was the... Hold up. I'm gonna Google this right quick.
Prudence, go ahead and make another perception check for deer while we're waiting. What's the question?
Yeah, this doesn't, like... There might not be many copies of the book, considering that this doesn't seem like the sort of kingdom that has movable type, but, you know...
Sundi?
There might be copies of it. There might be copies.
Rurik, being
there usually are.
Rurik, being proficient in history, will be able to tell you Sundi is a former province of the Great Kingdom, which broke up 20 years ago. So, they have movable type. It was a civilization.
So
this is not a new kingdom. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. So she rolled an 8.
We do have.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So yeah, there are probably copies.
Not much more than what you've already seen. Prudence rolled an 8 on Deer's investigation. Unfortunately, not much more than what you've already seen. You've seen guards. She flew down to ground level to about where you were, but didn't really spot anything in particular of interest. Do you know what a desire trail is? It's basically like in grass when there's no trail. If people walk the same path all the time, it wears down a bit of dirt. Right. There's a subreddit about it.
Desire.
You do
I've
see
never heard them called that.
You do see a desire path going into the wall, but on the wall, she doesn't notice anything in particular about it.
That's neat. That's a good name for it.
It could be like
one
someone
in my room.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you how to
like
live.
All the
okay.
furniture's up to one side, and then all the piles of crap is on the other side. Anyway.
Okay. And I'm just sitting here flipping through my big old book of monsters, waiting for you guys to do something.
Yeah, that's another thing to add to the to-do list. That we gotta like hopefully try and find a copy of this book if one exists. So that's find the copy of the book. That's save this guy's kid. There's find some documents. Return the documents we borrowed after copying the documents we borrowed.
The title of the book was The History of the Noble Houses of Sundi and the Southern Kingdom, a primer.
That's a mouthful.
A little bit. Okay, so the Prudence suddenly, from the seated position, without using his hands, just stands up straight, because he's like that, and just says, well, I think I'm going to go in there, and if you want, you can follow me. He turns on his heel and walks towards the door and opens it. And you see Deer coming from the top of the wall back down. The wall's not super high. It's about 35 feet high. But it's a sizable distance.
I'm staying out here. I mean, I don't have any reason to think that there might be something here. And if I were to be discovered trying to sneak into the castle this way with my with my existing background with the nobles, that could be disastrous.
Yeah, it would implicate me in some sort of scheme.
In that case, I think I'll...
And we don't want to start an international incident.
In that case, I'll accompany Prudence for safety reasons, I suppose.
Okay.
And
so
hopefully,
Rurik, you march in behind Prudence. Shigun and Zook, you are hanging out outside.
I guess we're keeping watch because Prudence didn't make a plan.
I trust Deer found something of merit, so I'm just gonna roll with it.
If nothing else, we can keep watch here for a while. I think eventually we should all be back at the hotel by sundown.
That seems reasonable.
Assuming they haven't been arrested.
I hope not. That would be bad. Normally it's the rogues who get arrested.
Well...
Okay, so he says, well, I plan to make my way in, see where it goes, and perhaps if we find people not to let them know we're there. If they see us, I'm gonna act like I'm not doing anything illegal, because I'm not, so...
Trespassing is...
Well, the door was unlocked, so...
This is true. The door was unlocked. Yeah, I say we go. I say we'll go for it. Prudence and I can head in that direction.
Okay, so marching order, Prudence in front and you behind, or are you side by side?
Yeah, I can follow Prudence.
Okay, I'll pop you like that just so I remember what order you're moving in.
Can I like post myself at the door to like look through the keyhole?
Yeah.
Well, the door's open.
Well, the door is open. It wasn't locked.
Well, can I post myself at the door so that I can look into the tunnel, but I'm hidden from anyone in the tunnel?
Inside the tunnel? Yeah, I'll say roll a stealth check with advantage, because you have a wall you can stand behind.
Yeah. Okay.
At this point, the stealth check is more about noise than about movement.
So stealth with advantage. So advantage plus. Yeah.
Yeah, you basically disappear.
Cool. So I'm watching the tunnel.
That said, like in the daylight, if somebody looks directly at you, like Rurik, Shigun sees you obviously, but you do actually like you get down low and you mark your face a little bit so that it breaks up the color. You get the feeling that if a casual observer, maybe at 100 feet walked by, they wouldn't really be able to catch on that you're there. Okay, so side by side, Deer's going to be flying ahead when she can. So some monsters and traps. Okay. About how far forward? I will use this. Actually, the D4 is over here. I'll use this D4 to represent Deer, more or less. I'm going to shift this map over to the side. I'm just doing this to get a vague idea of about where you are. This isn't going to be perfect. Roughly. Okay, so about 40 feet. I believe want to make sure I get this right. That's the limit of your telepathic connection? Or is your limit 60 feet? 100 feet's the limit. Okay, so it's only going to be about 40 feet out. Okay. So. Okay, so she's actually. So 40 feet is quite far ahead. So you go in. It's essentially a hallway. You see going out to the left, out to the right. It's about 10 feet, and then it goes to either side. On the left-hand side, you see it goes for about 10 feet and then turns to the right. And then it goes straight all the way to the right. Just basically about as far as your vision can go.
So, like, just to clarify the arrangement with me and Shigun, I'm keeping watch. I'm watching the inside of the tunnel. And Shurik, I imagine, is keeping watch.
Yep, Zook.
Yeah,
like
I'm
on the outside of the tunnel. On the tunnel.
I'm just keeping my eyes open for anyone outside.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're looking in like opposite directions.
Alrighty, yeah, Shigun, you've leaned up against the wall on the other side of the door from Zook. Zook, you kind of have your head kind of poked in, just keeping a nice eye on the inside. So
I like to imagine I'm located between Shigun and the wall, which is why I'm hiding so well.
I'm gonna draw a small little diagram. Obviously, this isn't to scale. Let's say if you're coming in from from away from the camera, let's say this is the door here. What you see is a hallway that extends. Let's do this. Basically, what you see like that. So if this is the doorway you came in, to the left, it goes for about 10 feet and then makes a hard right. The other direction, you can see it just extends about out to the edge of your vision. So it's less a fork and more you're entering a hallway.
Okay, I thought the hallway was like straight, like into the city. My bad. I got what you mean now.
Well, so you do know from your time, since you walked in through the city gate, you know this wall is about 50 feet thick. Like, it's a big wall.
Yee. Big wall. Yeah, we can head left.
Okay. So you head to the left. You come around the corner. Are you making any attempts to be, you yourself making any attempts to be stealthy, or are you letting Deer scout ahead and do her thing before you walk forward? I'm gonna do this. Okay, roll a stealth check for Deer. I believe it's a +3. Yes. Okay, good to know. She goes around the corner. As you're just inside the door, Rurik's sort of off your shoulder. You do the thing that you do, sort of lean back on your heels, almost to the point of falling over. Your arms go slack, and your perception shifts over to your familiar. As she goes forward, it's a little difficult for an owl to maneuver in here, but she's doing the best she can. She's not doing too badly. She comes around the corner, and as she's going, she doesn't see any individuals. She doesn't see any people. She does see a couple of doorways to the right. I gotta make sure I got my lefts and lights correct. She sees 3 doorways to the left, to the right rather. And then the hallway extends further, and that's the 40 feet forward.
Oh, that's a little better.
The hallway does extend further down. At the very edge of her vision, she can see that it makes another bend. I'll just do this. It's further down, but I'll just say it goes about that direction. I didn't line it up correctly, but whatever. And then it goes out of her sight range. All of the doors are currently closed, and unfortunately owls aren't quite capable of operating door handles.
But they are closed and not like ajar or anything.
They are closed. You can see, I will say with a strength of 3, she probably can't push them open if they're just the kind of door that can be pushed open, so... okay, yeah, have her make... So she hops down. I'll just say make a perception check, just 3 perception checks in a row for her. For each of the 3 doors. So 20, 23, and a 4. Alright. So, she hears nothing at the first and third doors. The second door, she hears... It's kind of hard to identify the sound. This is being relayed to you telepathically, and you are aware of everything she sees and hears. It sounds like it's hard to describe, like 2 rocks are being rubbed against each other really hard, I wish I had something here to explain. Almost like papers being torn, but more like rocks being rubbed against each other constantly. Just a steady sound.
So, the sound of a waterfall with the texture of gravel.
Yeah, imagine someone running their hand through gravel. That's the sound. That's what she hears. Okay. So, Prudence, you make your way around the corner. You open the door. The door opens. It's not locked. In the hallway, I should note, there are sconces roughly every 10 feet. They are lit. So there is a bit of light. This door that you open up, there is no light. You have dark vision, so you can see with using the little bit of light that's coming in. It appears to be a storage room. You see shelves. There's sacks all around. There's some barrels. On the shelves higher up, you see various tools and implements and so on. And down lower you see what appear to be like sacks of grain, and one of the sacks has been torn open and there's potatoes rolling out from the bottom. It's about roughly 20 by 20 room. The doors are about 30 feet apart. Doors are about 10 feet apart. What am I saying? So it's a roughly 20 by 20 room. The room kind of extends like that. Okay, so you move on. You close the door behind you. Move on to the third hallway rather, third door. Go ahead and roll perception for yourself now. So you lean in. You kind of press your ear up against. It's a little tough to actually press your ear up against the door because one of your horns is kind of in the way, but you do the best you can. You don't hear anything at first, and just as you're about to pull your head away, the middle door have a lot of space under it. I will finish my description and then I'll come back to that. Just as you start to pull your head away, you hear like a squeak. Just like as you're pulling your head away. The middle door, I'd say, yeah, there's probably about an inch and a half from the space from the bottom of the door to the floor. They're not particularly secure doors. Okay, yeah. Roll. You're looking for sight this time. I'll use the same 20. I'll just use the same 20 for that. She kind of does. She tries to bend her head down as if she were a raven. Realizes that her head is too big for that at the last second and turns her head over to look with one of her eyes down. She looks out. It's kind of tough to see from this angle. You don't see a whole lot. You do see, I should say, Deer sees telepathically to you what appear to be what's the word I'm looking for? You see not chair legs exactly, but like very thick pieces of wood, maybe almost a foot around, just like going into the floor. Apart from that, you see maybe 3 or 4 of these from the bottom of the doorway, but other than that, you don't quite see anything. You do notice that there is a flickering light in the room. Yes, there's like a very strong flickering light. This is actually something you would have seen coming out from under the door as you walk down the hallway. It's definitely brighter than the hallway. Okay, so Prudence whispers over to Rurik. Sorry. There's some kind of bright light under the second door. I think we should just leave it all alone. Do you want to check the other direction?
Sure. I'm okay with that. I'm doing my best not to move very much because I'm not stealthy.
Alrighty, I'm just gonna tuck the map a little further away so I can go a little further.
Yep.
Shigun and Zook, could I have you make perception checks for me while we do that? Prudence comes back. Zook, you see this, and he just kind of points down the other edge of the hallway and starts heading in that direction.
We're checking out this way.
So you start going this direction. You're in front.
Oof.
Okay. Alrighty, good to know. So you start making your way down this hallway. As I mentioned, it does extend almost to the edge of your vision. It extends about 60 feet down this way. And then goes to, at the very end of the hallway, that's not to scale, obviously. At the very end of the hallway is a door. Just a plain wooden door. Of note, there are no doors in this hallway.
It's just a long hallway with a door at the end.
Okay. You make your way down. You meet up with Deer at the doorway. Go ahead and roll. Okay, roll perception for both of you then. Roll for Deer first, and then for you, just so I can keep reference.
Man, these are some awful rolls today. I hope so.
This doorway, you don't quite hear anything. You do also kind of like get down low and go to look underneath. This doorway does come very close to the ground. It's only about a half inch, and you can't really see underneath. You do see it's roughly equally as lit as the hallway you're currently in. But other than that, you're really not getting a lot.
If you can hear my mouse click, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Okay. See, Prudence stands up, dusts himself off, laces his hands together, and turns to Rurik and says, "Well, it can't be helped. I think we've risked enough, and we don't have an excellent reason to be here, so let's..." Jerks his thumb over and to the doorway to the outside.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I don't have any reason to doubt your judgment.
Okay. So you'll make your way back out. You meet up back with sorry, Zook, you're not visible behind the tall people. You make your way back out to the doorway.
That's kind of the goal, actually.
The guard who refused your tip, I believe, was at the southern gate. Let me pull the map of the city back up again. Was at the south gate?
Yes.
You are actually exiting via the west gate. Rurik, you do know how to get to Pitchfield because you've been there before. You are exiting out the west gate.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take the time to go out to the far gate. Does anybody else go with Prudence out to the south gate here?
I think it might behoove us to make preparations for our impending trip.
Wait. Who's going there? Why are we going there?
Prudence is going...
It's something Prudence wants to do.
Yeah, Prudence is going to the south gate to find the guard that he spoke to before, to let him know about the open door. Would anyone else like to go with him, or do you have other things you'd like to do for the day?
We need to copy the documents.
Yeah, it might be best if at least I, at the minimum, go back to the inn, get lodgings for the night, and start copying the documents.
Yeah.
Okay.
I imagine it will take a while. I have some materials I'd like to pick up, and I also need something that's better for a long set of travel because I don't really have any good gear for that.
Y'all making me flip
Also,
back to the Fates draw page.
I kind of zoned out while you were explaining our business at the gate. What is our business at the gate?
Prudence would like to go there and let them know about the open door. Oh, here we go.
I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I would just leave it alone.
The concern I have with that is he's going to question Prudence why he knows the door is unlocked.
That's also a good concern.
It's
Prudence
not like this door is easy to access. It's a little out of the way for most travelers.
If we're going to ring the alarm on this, then it should be me and Shigun delivering the news, because they already trust us.
Okay. Prudence says...
We're not like a scary tiefling telling them that, hey, there's a secret back door in your castle, by the way, hey, definitely not my fault.
Prudence says, well, I disagree. I think that informing the guard is a social responsibility. I mean, he treated me fairly, and I think that I should do the same. For reference, despite the racism you experienced in Darnek, up to this point, Prudence hasn't really seen much more than a curious glance here in Vandalo.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, mainly I'm just concerned, like, who's using this and why. What, like... we like why is this here? What might we be meddling with by like telling someone about it? Like, do they already know about it, and do they want us to not know about it, or what's the deal?
Prudence cuts you off and says, "You can tell the guard in my stead if you like to. Just as long as you present all of the information that I'd like to tell."
I mean, you can tell the guard if you want. I'm just concerned about it, like if that's a good idea.
Well,
but if you must, you may.
In our defense, Nald's house is very close by, so
we were just visiting an old friend.
There you go.
And that is true. He
lives out in the middle of nowhere, and we'd have to cross a river otherwise.
And we did happen to notice the door on the way. We were not deliberately looking for it.
I think it'll be fine.
At the very least, we should all meet at the inn we stayed at by sundown.
Yes, definitely.
That way no one gets lost or arrested.
Okay.
I've yet to really take a tour of the shops.
I assume you're still having this conversation at the doorway, more or less, or sort of on your way back around?
I believe we can start heading our way back around.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for the ease of myself, I am going to, just because of how small this map is, I'm going to replace you with these game pieces, because it'll be easier to see, and line you all up here because you have colored bases, so those will be your references.
Okay.
And I'll move it closer to the camera so you can see what's actually going on.
It's actually kind of hard for me to see that.
Let me blow it up. Hold on.
That helps.
It's a relatively detailed map, unfortunately. I should have made a less detailed map.
But... No, it's not your fault. It's for me to be able to have it on my screen. I have to have it like in the minimized corner way because I have the Nerd Night server open for
because Discord is dumb.
Discord's very dumb.
That's why it's free.
So, at this moment, currently, Zook, I've heard two things. Zook wants to go to the shops, and Prudence wants to go to the south gate. Where else would I believe Shigun said he wants to go back to the Fates Draw?
Yes,
is that correct?
I believe he's going to start working on copying those manuscripts.
Did the calligrapher's kit come with parchment or anything for me to write on, or will I have to buy that myself?
That specific kit did not. You do have to swing through the marketplace that you know of, the Commerce Guild marketplace to get back to the Fates Draw. You can swing through. Let me double check. I don't want to make sure I'm stiffing you on how expensive these are. So give me one quick second to look up how much parchment actually is, because I don't want to tell you like it's a gold for a roll of parchment and it's like a copper. Right. Just give me one quick second.
I just want to make sure I have enough materials when I go to the inn.
So it's a silver piece for one scroll of parchment.
Okay.
Sorry, 2 silver pieces. What am I saying? And that will roughly copy the entire scroll or 4 pages of the book you have.
Okay. How much do you think I would need to copy all the relevant information from like House Talmyra and everything? Because I'm not going to copy the entire book, of course.
Right. The information that you found in the book was unfortunately not very detailed due to the missing pages. More or less, in your estimation, I'll say make an intelligence check. Just a straight intelligence check. Because as you guys are walking, you're just kind of scanning the information and double checking and so on. You get to the west gate.
So like a math check?
It's more or less just like using his knowledge of calligraphy to just skim through and see if he can estimate how much space he'll need. Uh-oh, the Thursday gameplay thing is broken. There we go.
He rolled.
So at 12? Alrighty.
No, it's a 14.
14. Plus,
sorry, the roll was 12 plus 2, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, more or less you estimate you'll probably need 5 pieces or so.
That's
Which-
fine.
Due to the math, it'd be 1 gold piece to get 5 rolls of parchment.
Okay. I'll go ahead and spring for that then. Will I need extra ink or anything?
No, the ink you have will last for roughly 100 pages of parchment, just like the whole thing.
Okay.
So you make your way to the Commerce Guild Market.
So me and Shigun are both going to the shops.
Yeah.
Okay. Zook.
I'm
And
gonna buy
roughly the same part, because I'm wishing to shop for books.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So I will say, Shigun, unless you have any more business, I'll say you can go in, get out, and then leave. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to like roleplay here, or if there's another shop you want to go to? Otherwise, I'm just gonna have you say you found the shop, you left, and then you went back to the inn.
Are there any towns or other places along the way to the capital city from where we're departing? Or is it just like all road plus wilderness?
Consulting Rurik, you do know there's one city. There's the capital of the next county over, Brenethar.
Okay.
Naturally, the the city is called Bren because, of course. There are a number of small. Town is perhaps not the right word, but like living environments along the road. It is quite a long space, and Rurik does know this, so you can just consult directly with him.
Okay.
You pass through 1, 2, 3 different forests along a river. Like there's lots of like farming communities and caravans have passed through here and there. So there are small settlements between here and there.
I'm
in
just
addition
trying to
to
make
the
sure
one
we
big
have
city.
I'm just trying to make sure we have enough rations and other such things for the travel. So I'm going to find a shop I can purchase scrolls from, or parchment. I'm going to purchase 6 rolls instead of 5, just so I have a little bit of extra.
Okay.
And that would be 1 gold and 2 silver.
Correct.
Okay, I will
Zook,
go ahead and do that.
Zook, you said you're looking for a bookstore, more or less?
Yeah, I'm seeking books of spells and of lore.
All right. You
Spell
each
books
kinda...
because spell books are good.
Alrighty.
Lore books because that's in character, and that's also me essentially saying, "Could you please write me a reference? I can't keep all this. I can't keep track of this."
Okay. So you get to the crossroads. Sorry, Shigun and Zook, you split off, go to the marketplace. Prudence makes his way to the south gate. Rurik, where would you like to go?
I have a couple of things I would like to pick up myself, namely vials to complete the materials I need to craft some potions, and also some stuff to line out my gear for long trips, because I don't really have like a proper bedroll or anything like that. That wasn't part of my initial gear setup.
Gotcha.
So I'd like to pick up that properly.
I would like to clarify, just to make sure, you guys know where the Commerce Guild headquarters is. It's right here, this marketplace. You do also know of the Federation of Free Trade. You don't know a lot about them. You just know they don't like the Commerce Guild. But you do know they deal in trade. So I just want to make sure, you all going back to the Commerce Guild?
I think that's where we would get all of our stuff, I believe.
Okay. So all of you make your way back to the Commerce Guild marketplace, which is not amazingly far from the Fate's Draw, so you're kind of all right there.
How convenient.
I am actually starting to take notes.
Excellent. The sessions do go up on YouTube as well, so if you miss anything, you can.
They're fun to listen to while at work.
Yeah, it's like they're 3 hours long or something. So each of you is at the marketplace. I'll say, Shigun, you've made your transaction. I'm going to shift over to Prudence.
That's fine.
You make your way down to the south gate. You approach the guards that are there. Again, there are a number of guards, some to either side. Some guards stop a couple of people as they come in to inspect goods and so on. None of them take particular notice of your approach. You walk up and hold on 1 second. All right, you walk up and you look around. Make a perception check for me, because they are in armor.
Man, these rolls.
Okay. So it takes you a bit of time. You do kind of... It's a little weird. You kind of walk up to each of the guards individually and stare at them for a second and then move on to the next one. But you do find the guard. You do find the guard. It takes you a good 25 minutes of just like staring at people without saying anything. But you do eventually find the guard. You walk up to him, and he's noticed what you've been doing and kind of takes a nervous step back for a second. Then he recognizes you, and he relaxes. And then you recognize him. That's the thing about ability checks. It's not necessarily pass-fail. It's sometimes how long it takes you to do the thing.
And also, low rolls tend to lead to more comedic flavor.
Today's episode brought to you by Crispin Cider. So, apart from what you've already said, is there anything in particular that you would like to say to the guard?
He is currently typing.
Yeah, got him.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So you walk up to this guard and you say, well, I appreciate the help he gave us earlier. It was very useful finding a place to stay. I did notice something a little bit off about the security of the city. Is that something that I can tell you, or is there someone else that I should speak to? And he stops and says, well, I mean, all of us kind of all work under the same person, so yeah, what's your concern? Okay. You say, if you go out from the west gate, follow the wall all the way around until you get to where the castle is, you'll actually see a small door. Is that something you guys know about? Is it a private residence? Is that something the castles? He stops you. Yep. Nope. Yep. We are we're aware of it. It's there. I appreciate you letting us know that you found it. We'll have to do what we can to make it less visible. And he sort of motions one of the other guards over. And he leans in to whisper to the other one, make a perception check. Okay, he's just gonna straight up roll. Cool, which is good. So you hear him whisper, the house's door is visible. Can you just take care of that? Maybe put some mud on it or something. I don't know. The other guard nods and starts taking off towards the west gate.
What's the door?
Lyos's.
Ah.
Okay. He turns back to you, about to say something, and you say, I hope I helped. Spin on your heel and walk away. Shifting time frame over. Shigun, Rurik, and Shigun, Rurik, and Zook. I will say Shigun and Zook are definitely in the same store because you can buy parchment and books in the same location. Rurik, are you following them? You are looking for apothecary supplies, was it?
Effectively, yes. And also
Alrighty.
some generic adventuring gear for like long trips.
Okay. Roll
Kind of
Rurik, roll investigation. And while that's happening, Shigun and Zook. Shigun, you have purchased your parchment. Is there anything else you'd like to pick up while you're here? The store that you're in it's like a bookstore and writing supplies and like general.
It's quills and sofas.
It's quills and sofas, just without the sofas. The sofas are next door.
How much does a quill cost?
You know what? I legitimately don't know. Let me look it up in the PHP.
Okay.
I feel like it's like a copper, but I just again.
I might pick up 1 or 2 extra just to have spares.
It straight up is not in here.
No.
Let's see if
Make it Luigi.
you have a.
Oh,
I'm like calligraphy kit. Yeah, calligraphy kit's not in here as well. I will say, for the sake of this, you can get a bundle of 4 quills for a copper piece. They're not extremely high quality quills, mind you, but they're functional.
They'll
get the job done.
That's fine. I'll go ahead and spend a copper for 4 quills then.
Okay.
That'll
So
put
that-
my
Oh,
count
no.
up.
Luigi, no. Nope.
What is
Is your
doing?
cat
He knocked over your dongle.
Your cat's not behaving? Okay, yeah, so you go ahead and purchase the quills for 10. You have a relatively easy exchange. Is there anything else you'd like to purchase while you're here?
If I think of anything, I'll let you know. I'm not sure right now.
Okay. Zook, you said you were looking for, like, lore books, aka history books, and so on.
Yeah, books of
and-
lore and magic.
Magic.
So also spell books. But if there aren't any in this shop, I'm gonna look for lore books in this shop.
I will say, Prudence, technically, if you're not there, you wouldn't be able... So the way the portent rolls work is you're essentially magically changing something that you can see happen. I'd say if you're not aware of something happening, then you wouldn't be able to replace a roll with a portent roll. So, I believe your second one was a 2. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I remember. It was something really low. Yeah. Okay.
If there are not spell books, then I might want to look for lore books about magic.
Okay. So you go through this shop while Shigun is, doing his transaction. You don't see
Books of
any
lore and magic lore.
particular magic books. You do see a couple of books that reference historical events that have happened that are magical in nature. As you're scanning through, most of the books are written in common. A couple of them are in a language you don't recognize. I just want to double check, see what languages you know. Just Gnomish and these can't. A couple of them are in languages you don't know. And common. Right, I'm just assuming everybody knows common. So, unless you're a wild elf, then you don't know common by default. But,
That would be rough.
That's an unearthed arcana race. Yeah, so you're going through this. You do see a couple of copies of just various books, various history books. Due to the nature of Sundi being a very young kingdom, you don't actually find a lot of information about the kingdom of Sundi itself. You do find a book, actually, that does look rather familiar. It looks very similar to the book that Shigun is currently carrying, except in its title, instead of saying a history of the noble houses of Sundi in the Southern Kingdom, etc., it just says a history of the noble houses of the Great Kingdom. This book is probably about 20 years old or so. It's a pretty old book.
I would like to purchase this book.
Okay. So you pull the book off the shelf, you go up to the shopkeep. The shopkeep does say it is going to be 15 gold for this book. He says, well, this book is practically an artifact at this point. It's very hard to find reference material about the Great Kingdom. So, that'll be 15 gold.
Boy. Cat.
Okay. And what other books are there in the shop that I might be interested in that I might also want to purchase?
Okay. While you're there, you do scan around, just for the sake of it. Roll investigation.
Investigation.
I'll tell you it. I'll reveal to you it's a low DC, but just in case.
Kingdom is only okay. Man.
Refresh cache of current page. There we go.
Trying to get a discount.
Okay. It takes you a little bit of time, and just as Shigun is wrapping up his transaction, you stumble upon a couple of books, again, in a language you don't recognize, but one of them stands out to you a little bit because it has the Tarmyran crest on the spine. It is not in a language you recognize, but it does have the Tarmyran crest.
I'm gonna think for a second.
As an aside, I know you were looking for books on magic. Like I said, no like magic books per se, more like historical accounts of magical events that happened that you're able to find here.
Okay, do you think they'd kick me out if I cast Comprehend Languages?
What are the spell components of Comprehend languages?
Verbal, somatic, and material that's not used up, but verbal, somatic.
Verbal and somatic. Let me just double check, see if the spell description says what the... Oh, did I really not? Oh, there it is. Pitch of soot and salt. Takes an action. I'd say, because the shopkeep is busy with Shigun, you glance over your shoulder, you get the feeling you could probably pull it off without him noticing. If you'd like to do that, go ahead and roll a sleight of hand check.
I do want to know what the book is called. I will keep that in mind. I'm just looking up how rests work.
Long rest, you get your spells back.
All your spell slots?
All of them.
Okay.
Short rest, you get none of them back. Unless you're a wizard, but...
Well, I'm not.
Prudence is just lucky like that.
Okay, I will try to cast it quietly.
Okay, go ahead and roll sleight of hand. Okay. You mutter the incantation under your breath. It's a very small motion. There's a little bit of soot and salt that you sort of grind together between your hands, and as you pull your hands apart, you feel your eyes glaze over for a second, and then they sharpen and focus, and you can understand all of the books in front of you. You turn towards the book that has the Tarmyran crest on it, and you read the spine. It says, I gotta flip to that page because I wasn't expecting you to do that. It's where is it? There it is.
A tomb of southern dialects.
Yeah, no. On the spine of the book, it says, on House Tarmyran and the Kingdom of Dulstrand.
I will add this to my shopping cart. I will also look around to see if there are any other books that I can now recognize as possibly of interest.
Okay.
You said it was on House Tarmyran and what?
The title of the book was On House Tarmyran and the Kingdom of Dulstrand.
It seems useful.
Also, how do you spell Tarmyran?
I'll type it in chat. 1 second.
It's a fun word.
Oh, with an I, not an E.
Yeah. Tarmyran, not Tarmyran.
I think
that's a whole nother group all the way to the... No. And I need to double check. I don't believe... Okay, yeah, comprehend language doesn't tell you what the language is. So you don't know what language it's in, you just know how to read it. For the duration, comprehend languages is an hour. Okay. Is it even concentration? Wow, it's not even concentration, it's just an hour. That's awesome.
Are there any other books of note?
You scan through the other books, now recognizing what the titles are. Again, same material, not magical material, but events of magical in nature, like the rise of the Empire of Ayuz, things like that. Other than that, nothing really stands out to you.
Any history books regarding Tarmyran or Sundi or Dullstrand? Because I think that's also relevant to what Loras is trying to do.
Apart from the book that you've found, you don't see anything in particular that stands out to you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there are history books, there are journals and so on, but most of them don't immediately stand out to you and say like Dullstrand or Sundi or, House Tarmyran on them. A lot of them actually do reference events that happened quite some time ago. Some of them reference the Free City of Greyhawk. Some of them reference, other locations around the world. But none of them in this immediate area.
Wait. What about the Great Kingdom?
Remind me how old your character is.
50, but mostly lived in a forest.
That's right, because you're a gnome. You lived in a forest. Roll a history check for me.
I'm the youngest of the group.
Are you? How old is Shigun?
No, I'm not.
I'm 24.
Okay. I would say I know
I like
Rurik's
to
old
pretend
because
I
you're a
am.
dwarf, but
Yeah, I'm a human, so I'm probably the youngest of the group.
refresh cache. So you got a 23. So
I think I'm the oldest, maybe the oldest of the group, but I'm kind of functioning as the kid.
So despite, as a wood elf, right? Wood elf. What am I saying? A forest
gnome.
Excuse me. I don't know why I have wood elves on the brain, but as a forest gnome, you didn't really interact very often with the human and elven citizens of this region. You do know about the war.
I actually just left the village recently.
Right, so you haven't had a
backstory.
lot of context, right? But you do know about the war. The war in which the Great Kingdom was sundered into several different kingdoms, this region of Sundi being the southern portion of what used to be known as the Great Kingdom. This happened roughly 20 years ago, and there's been a lot of turmoil since then. You do know, other than remembering the events of, like, you would hear information coming in. You didn't leave the village, but people did, come in and out of the gnomes would go out to trade. They'd come back with stories. They do know about various battles. They remember when the Ulven King was appointed to the region, and they do know, and you do know that the kingdom of Alyssa to the north, and then the northern kingdom above them, both consider themselves to be the Great Kingdom, despite the fact that no longer exists.
The kingdom of what to the north and the North Kingdom?
Alyssa, the kingdom of Alyssa. It's the United Kingdom of Alyssa to the north, and then the Great Northern Kingdom to the north of them. You do know that they consider themselves the Great Kingdom, despite the fact that the Great Kingdom doesn't exist anymore. Without getting too political, it's like a Taiwan and China situation. They both consider themselves the Great Kingdom, and consider they both believe they own each other's territory. So there's a lot of conflict between the two. Sundi, since there's secession and since they've joined the Iron League, which is a number of kingdoms in the immediate area to protect themselves against the Great Kingdom, has more or less been left alone. But there is like a very unstable relationship with them and the rest of the remaining kingdoms of the Great Kingdom.
A less charged example is that the Byzantines considered themselves Roman.
Exactly, yes. The Byzantines consider themselves Roman, despite the fact that they were not in Rome. So, yes.
They did not have Rome. Rome was over there.
Exactly. It's exactly like that, yeah. That's what a 23 history check gets you.
So what'd you say about like the political situation with like Alyssa and the Northern Kingdom?
The two
Besides
of them,
that they both
right? The
like
two
between
of them,
each other. You mentioned something that I missed.
So between each other, they each believe they own each other's territory. So there's quite a bit of conflict between these two. Because of that, Sundi has been left relatively alone. Particularly because they joined the Iron League, which is a whole group of kingdoms in this area. But they don't trust Alyssa, because Alyssa has invaded them multiple times in the last 50 years.
Okay, so Sundi's of the Iron what?
League. Of which, of note, Dulstrand is not a member. Dulstrand,
okay, so...
You know Dulstrand, more or less, is a city that just happens to own territory outside the city. It's not really a city-state per se.
Okay, so are there any books in here that would... Oh yeah, also one last question. Is the Great Kingdom its name or a description of it?
That's the name. It's called... It
Okay.
was, but when it still existed, it was called the Great Kingdom.
Okay.
I will actually, with all of this exposition dump, I will come back to you, and I'll shift over to Rurik and see if there's anything you would like to do. I know you were looking for apothecary supplies, is that correct?
He's getting a drink real fast. I'll be back in a second.
Alrighty. Prudence, is there anything you'd like to do now that you're finished up with the guard? This took you probably an hour in total to get there and find the guard. Do you have time to meet up with Zook? I will say, if you make your way over to the marketplace, I'll just say you did. You make your way over to the marketplace. They are currently inside somewhere. You don't immediately see them in the area unless you'd go start looking for them, because you did not discuss what you were going to be looking for in the marketplace, so you're not quite sure where he would be within the marketplace.
The question I'm going to ask when we switch back to me is whether there are any books related to all the stuff you just told me about. Specifically, any kingdoms that would have in their time contained the House Tarmyran and stuff just adjacent to that whole situation.
Okay, yeah, I have a whole list
And
of things here.
Dulstrand.
Yep, I've got stuff. I'm keeping that in mind. I just want to make sure that other people also have time to do their stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
And I don't spend time just on you. Okay.
I'm back.
Make Prudence, make a perception check. Or, make investigation. Okay, so Prudent, Deer flies up to one of the top of the buildings nearby, and she starts hooting loudly. So it's a 22 investigation. Yeah, so 22. As you're coming in, you actually turn, and as you're scanning the crowd, you catch a flash. You catch a flash of blue. And you're like, I know that suit. And a flash of green. I know that top hat. And you start making your way over to the store that they're in, just as he's making his way into the door. So you follow them in. And Zook is scanning this whole area. You come in just as Zook is finished casting his Comprehend Languages spell. Which you don't recognize the spell, but you do recognize what had happened. You do recognize spellcasting when you see it. And you just walk in, kind of look at everybody in the room. Currently, it's Shigun and Zook and the shopkeep in the room. Hello. And you just sort of lean up against the wall by the door. Shifting... Okay. Shopkeep won't eavesdrop. Okay, I will say the shopkeep is standing next to Shigun and actively speaking to him. So, just for the sake of this, you wouldn't... Yeah, you would know that the shopkeep would hear if you were speaking aloud. I will shift over to Rurik because I was going to go to you, but then you were out, so I'm going to come to you. You were looking for apothecary supplies, correct?
Yes. I'm looking for 2 things, and that is one of them.
Okay. What is the other, just so I have it for reference?
I'm looking for stuff like general adventuring gear, such as like a pack of some kind, because I don't really have like a bedroll or anything like that for a long trip.
That's right, because you don't have a yeah. Got it.
I don't have a background that supports that.
Okay. You make your way to the marketplace. Zook and Prudence both kind of break off. They see the sign for quills and sofas, and they make their way over there. And that's canon now, by the way.
Yes.
And you scan
What's
the
canon?
area. The shop that you're in is called Quills and Sofas. No sofas, interestingly, but that's just what it's called. Make an investigation check.
My thing's not highlighted. There we go. Investigation, that's a 1, I think. Where is that? Here we go.
Okay.
We are getting very low ability rolls today.
So while all of this is going on, you kind of look around the marketplace. It's not incredibly difficult to find the general goods store. I believe Prudence actually was there before when he was looking for rope and shackles and so on. And you do enter, unbeknownst to you because you weren't there when this happened, but you do get to that store. And you walk in the door, the sign above the door that just says, "Adventurers welcome." And you think, oh, all right, cool. You make your way in. You walk in the room, you see a very large spool of rope in the center of the room and around and all over the walls.
That was my phone.
Cool beans. All over the walls there are just, picks and pythons and there's like a hammer here and there. Like there's shelves of just stuff everywhere. And you walk in with your armor, and the shopkeep kind of perks up as you come in, and just says, "Hello, what you looking for?"
Hello, good
Just
sir.
a middle-aged human, male, brown hair, brown eyes. If it's not racist to say that all humans look the same, this human looks the same as every other human.
So he looks like PK.
Oh, thank you.
You know the type. It's like his hair has been cut, but not recently, and it's kind of a bit of a mess. You know the type. He's got a 5 o'clock
Let me
shadow.
pull up the default 14 character.
Yeah. So when I went to roll this character out, I rolled 1s across the board. So, that is the most generic option possible.
That's funny.
All right then. Okay. Hello, sir. I am looking for a few general items to help facilitate a long journey. Specifically, at the top of my list is a bedroll, and just some other generic odds and ends to that end.
All right. Well, we got plenty of those. He actually points to the wall behind you as you come in. What you didn't notice as you were walking in the door over your shoulder is just... You ever been to an EMS and there's just like a wall of backpacks from floor to ceiling? It's like that. There's just like a dozen backpacks hung up on the wall, each with various things. Like some of them have climbing gear on them. Some of them have what appear to be some kind of like a tent strapped to it. But it's various adventuring packs. And to the left of those is the components of those packs. So there's bedrolls and tents and so on.
Well, I'm not necessarily looking for a full set of something already ready to go. I mean, I have a pack of my own. I just need something that would facilitate staying outside for undeterminable amounts of time.
All right. Well, you'll probably want a tent minimum. You said you wanted a bedroll. Have you got matches and tinder, things to start a fire with?
I believe that's not a concern, so I should be fine with that.
All right. So, tent. He pulls the tent down from the wall. That's going to be about 2 gold for this tent. He hefts it in front of him. It'll hold 2 people pretty comfortably. And he leans back and pulls a bedroll off the wall. And the bedroll is going to be a gold. And it's just going to be for you, or if you got companions that you need to perhaps equip. Between you entering and me having this conversation, I've decided he's going to have an accent, so.
That's fine. I'm accustomed to that.
Shifting over to Prudence a little bit. So Prudence is actually the roof of Quills and Sofas is the highest roof in the area currently on that side of the marketplace. So she's hooting very loudly. There are a couple of like pigeons around, but as soon as she starts hooting extremely loudly and starts approaching them, they scatter. And just random passersby are looking up at her and be like, what the hell is an owl doing up here? Shifting back to Rurik. So you got the tent for 2 gold and the bedroll for 1 gold.
Yes, that's what I'm looking at. You mentioned a tent holds 2 people. Just a quick side question, I suppose. Does anyone else in our party have a tent?
Sure, the group can answer. That's fine.
I have a bedroll.
You would have talked about this on the road, so.
Yeah,
I
would assume I would know if people have from having like we've traveled before. So
I just have a bedroll. I don't have a tent.
I do not have traveling equipment.
Okay, because you guys did actually stay on the side of the road one night between here and Darnak, so you do know the various things that you do and don't have.
Right. I think it might be nice to pick up 2 tents to hold 2 pairs of people.
All right. So for the 2 tents, actually, why don't we say 3 gold for the 2 tents? If you're gonna, let's say, if you also buy, you're looking for 4 people. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let's see if you get the 2 tents, it'll be the 3 gold, and if you get the 4 bedrolls, why don't we say 3 gold for that too, for a total of 6 gold?
Let me check Prudence's thing real quick. Okay. Actually, I think only 2 bedrolls will be needed. I think 2 of my companions already have those, so.
All right. So the 3 for the tents and the 2 bedrolls for 2 gold.
Is there anything else I might need? I think between everyone else we should be fine.
Just for reference, an explorer's pack contains a backpack, bedroll, mess kit, tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days of rations, and a water skin. And it also has 50 feet of rope.
And I think 2 of us have such a pack. So 2 of us have bedrolls, and then 2 of us don't.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's what I'm trying to take stock of here. I think just the better camping arrangements in the form of tents and a couple of bedrolls to help accommodate the others would be ideal, and maybe some extra rations.
All right. I haven't got food here, unfortunately, but if
That's
there's
all right.
anything else you're looking for, I can get you that. You look
don't
around.
happen to carry...
Sorry, go ahead.
You don't happen to carry any like apothecary supplies at all, like such as vials or anything, or do you just strictly deal in adventuring gear?
It's for the potions, right?
Yes. I assume that's a no then.
Don't insult my intelligence. No, I haven't gotten any supplies for that, but he goes around the counter and starts rummaging around, and he pulls up 2 what appear to be 2 empty potion bottles that have clearly been used in the past. There's a little bit of residue on the inside, and the corks are not the most most healthy looking corks. I'll tell you what, I got these 2 potions that an adventurer came in and traded me for it. How about the both of these for thanks for a second, 5 silver. And that'll be along with everything else. That'll just be 5 silver extra for the 2 bottles.
I think I'll pass on those bottles, but thank you. I appreciate the offer.
All right. Well, he looks at one of them and kind of swishes the residue that's left inside. They'll be here if you need them. He tucks them back down below the counter.
All right. So for now, just the 2 bedrolls and the 2 tents, please.
All right. That'll be 5 gold then. He packages everything up. He does the best he can. There's not like rope or anything holding them together. There's a little bit of rope holding the bedrolls together, and he kind of tucks the tents into the bedrolls, more or less. So you have 2 packages basically, each containing 1 bedroll and 1 tent.
Actually, wait. Now that I think about it, an unidentified potion is probably not safe to wash down the drain. It's probably something like a chemical hazard.
I don't believe you have any unidentified potions at the moment.
No,
I
I'm
think
just
he was
wondering why
referring
the
to
shop.
potions that the shopkeep had.
Yeah, I was wondering why he didn't wash them out.
Do you think he has running water?
He lives in a town with a river.
Do you think he goes outside of his little shop area very often? It's
buy water, yes.
From what you gather,
Or like to the well.
From what you gather, because this isn't material that he really trades in often, it's not his priority to make sure these things are in the best of condition.
That's fair.
Be that as it may, I figure.
Also, you're not there, so.
Yeah, also that.
Yeah.
I was just kind of venting.
Right. So you've got the 5 gold for those 2 packs. You got the 2 bedrolls and the 2 tents. Your backpack in particular can hold 1 tent and 1 bedroll in it.
Excellent.
Is there anything else you want to do? You're looking for other apothecary supplies, is that right?
Yes.
Alrighty. So you thank the shopkeep. You leave. You go down the marketplace area. Just you sort of the thing that you do in malls when you just kind of walk and look at the storefront. That's what you're doing down the whole marketplace. There's roughly 20 or so stores around, and there's various stalls here and there that have just been popped up here and there. And you eventually make your way down to one. There's a stall. You walk up to this stall, and it's interesting. Your entire time here, you've seen more or less maybe 2 or 3 ethnicities of human here. This one in particular is a very dark-skinned individual laid out with a carpet in front of him. He has various vials, glasses, jewelry in front of him, and he has a small shade essentially erected above him. And he's just sitting cross-legged with a bit of a mustache. His clothes don't look anything special. They look, normal for the region, but he does stand out because he's one of the first individuals of this particular nationality that you've encountered. Nationality, ethnicity. 4 different races of humans in Greyhawk, by the way. So.
I'll go ahead and approach his little stand here.
Okay. You walk up to the stand. You see, a number of very fine-looking vials, which is what you're looking for in particular. And as you approach, you actually step on the edge of the carpet, and he holds a hand up. You stop and you take your boot off of the carpet, and says, "Hello, friend. What is it we can be doing for you? I see you are a man of interestingly small stature, but perhaps we have something that would be of your interest."
Well, you have a number of interesting-looking odds and ends here. I'm particularly interested in some of these vials you may have.
Well, I would say the vials are more of an end than an odd, but... Each of these vials would be able to hold 1 potion in them. And, how many are you looking for today? I gotta be careful and make sure I'm not being racist. Thanks, Internet, for reminding me that people are sensitive like that. Anyway. You let Matt Mercer get away with it. Sorry, go on.
No, you're fine. I'm just trying to think of how many I would want. Can these be reused? Like if properly cleaned and stuff?
You know this, yes, absolutely. Potion bottles can be reused as long as you make sure to save them. In the heat of battle, sometimes like you take a potion, you throw it to the ground, the glass shatters. But if this is something that you take the time and you can hold onto the bottle, yeah, they're glass. You can just wash them out and reuse them.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume the previous ones have been lost due to stuff like that. Keep that in mind.
Just for reference, just for the sake of everybody, I'll say yes. You like in the heat of battle, you took the potion, you threw it away, the glass shattered. If you're outside combat, I'll just say you keep the bottle. Like you don't even have to tell me. I'll just assume you do it.
Okay. In that case, I'll pick up 2 for now. I'm interested in 2 of your vials.
Very good, my friend. He picks up 2 of the vials that are just closest to him. They're all roughly the same size. Some of them are different shapes, but they're all roughly the same size. He picks up the 2, and none of the vials on the carpet have any corks in them. He reaches behind him into a little basket, and he takes 2 corks and corks the 2 bottles. For these 2, for my new friend, that will be 2 gold.
See, I'm not particularly sure if that's expensive vials or not, but this seems.
In your experience, with your background as an apothecary, 1 gold per vial is about market price.
I don't know if I would want to trust those vials. Are the ones that Prudence is referring to.
Refresh cache of current page. There we go.
Chat's not updated.
I fixed it.
Yes, I had that sounds fine to me.
Very well, my friend. And he puts both bottles in one hand. Clink. He holds out the other hand. He's not.
I will.
You notice he's not looking directly at you. He's more or less looking at about your foot level. But he knows you're there, and he holds his hand out. And as you consider, my friend, I don't know if I have all day.
Would I sense anything strange or off about him? Would I suspect him of foul play here?
Roll an insight check.
Right, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's the... Now I gotta remember. I gotta go back into my guide and reference the different races of humans.
Where's my insight? Oh, right. I have a... That's nice. He totally does have all day. He's setting up shop.
Okay. You're not getting any bad vibes off of this individual. This is a sub-race of humans that you've never encountered before, so he's kind of a little bit hard to read. But there's nothing about him screams scam artist. Like, you look at the vials, and the vials look clean, they look whole, they look uncracked. So, oops, that's not in this book, it's actually in the other one. There's a lot of Greyhawk material, by the way. It is so difficult keeping it all straight.
I'd imagine. Hmm.
There we go. Now I remember what race he is. There we go. Yeah, it's almost like it was the original campaign setting or something. Imagine that. Alright, I gotta close this for a second. Because the camera keeps autofocusing even though I turned off autofocus, so...
No.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, this person seems... Honest might be going too far, but they're a businessman, and they're performing business. So...
Fair. Alright. I'll fetch I'll fetch 2 gold and offer them as I reach for the vials as well.
Okay. You drop the 2 gold in his hand closes, and as you reach for the vials, he releases the vials, and they... Transaction complete.
Right. Yeah, thank you, sir. I also like... What else, what are your other items that we have here?
Oh, my friend, you've come to the right place! Ah! And he kind of flexes his arms up. He's definitely been sitting all day, and he looks a little rough. He leans over to the other side. So on the left side was like all these vials and stuff, just various different shapes. On the right side, it looked like jewelry, almost. Various necklaces, bracelets, a couple of brooches here and there. He lifts up one of the pendants. It's a simple pendant. It looks like a... I don't want to use real world analogies, but you know the New Mexico flag? How it's like a circle with a bunch of things coming out, the left and right, and the top and bottom? It's essentially like a plus sign with a circle in the middle. It's like that. I hate using real world analogies like that, but it's essentially a sphere in the center. It looks to be solid gold, with projections coming out the top and bottom and the 2 sides. And he says, "From my home country, this is it's a regular old pendant with a drama class, so you can take it off by pulling as if you broke the chain." So he holds up something. It has a relatively stout chain, like each link is almost an inch wide. He says, "For you, I think, perhaps for a loved one, you may be able to remind them how much that you appreciate them." And he holds up the pendant. Of course, I have other wares as well, but none quite as fine as this one.
Observing the pendant, is there anything that I would be able to discern from it by looking at it or just sensing it?
What? I will say specifically, what are you looking for? Like, what kind of thing are you looking for?
Does it have any religious significance, or would it potentially be magical in nature?
I will say make a religion check.
Man.
Okay. It doesn't appear to be religious in nature. It is very finely crafted. He's not wrong. It does appear to be. It is, from best you can gather, it is most certainly mundane. Good looking, absolutely, but definitely mundane. It doesn't appear to have any religious significance of the deities that you're familiar with, more or less.
I believe I'll pass on this.
Very well. You know where to find me if there's anything else that you need. He sets the pendant back down on the table, and he sort of almost returns back into himself, sort of in this meditative position with his eyes closed. Oh no, my Firefox crashed. That's unfortunate.
Thank you, good sir. I appreciate the vials, and may Paler's light guide you on your way.
And buck up to yours, my friend.
And after having procured what I'm after, I will make my way back towards the last known area where the rest of the party was at.
Well, you do know 3/4 of the party is in the group. You do, as you leave the establishment, you look up and you see an owl hooting, making a lot of noise. You recognize the owl as Deer.
Oh, fantastic! I shall.
You make your way
I will
over
make
to that.
for Deer's position.
Okay. You make your way over to the building. A Deer kind of cocks her head a little bit, and then realizes that she can't bend her neck that way, and instead it turns her neck from side to side instead. This is definitely Deer. You recognize the mannerisms of an owl thinking that she's a raven.
Owls may certainly be able to turn their neck further than any other animal, but it doesn't seem that Deer seems to have picked up on that.
Hey, it's her first day, all right? So you make your way to the store. It is the Quills and Sofas. And I will cut there. Shigun, is there anything else you were looking for while you were there? Because you're roughly lined up in time at this point, so... Zook is finishing up with collecting his books. You're finishing up your transaction. Anything else you want to look for while you're here?
I suppose I could do a quick once around the bookshelf to see if there's anything that might be useful, kind of like what Zook was doing.
Oh, did Zook end up getting those books that he found?
Not yet.
So
I'm still looking for, like, what other books are there that might be of note.
Okay, so you finish
That's
up
the thing we paused.
Yep, so Shigun, you finish up your transaction. You actually join Prudence, and the both of you are now looking over the shelf. Zook, you approach the shopkeep. The first book, I believe...
No, are there any other books?
From what you can see... I'm just going to base it on the same investigation roll from before. From what you can see, nothing else major stands out. There are a number of other books that you see reference the Great Kingdom. They don't seem to be quite in the right area. Some of them are like economic. Some of them are, the Great Kingdom and its relationship to the Free City of Greyhawk. It doesn't seem to quite be what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I'm not really a historian just yet, so...
You are not. You rolled well, but you're not a historian, so... So you go up to the shopkeep with your 2 books. You have the one book that was the 15 gold.
Houses of the Great Kingdom?
Second book...
On House Tarmyran in the Kingdom of Delstrand?
That's right. The one that you didn't... Of the language you didn't recognize. That's right. You walk up, you hand the shopkeep the book. He takes the second book and turns it over. You can see there's a moment where, like, he doesn't know this language either, so he doesn't quite know what he's looking at. And, he says, all right, how about for the 2 of them, why don't we say 25 gold?
Well...
That's the 15 for one and 10 for the other. I think that sounds pretty fair to me, don't you think?
Unless any of the other party members want to interfere, then I would make this purchase.
Let me just double check here. Okay. Prudence kind of pipes up, being a little bit careful about what he says, and he says, well, I You might be at an advantage if you wanted to ask for less. The shopkeep kind of gives him a look of incomprehension. Also, recognizing now that he's a tiefling, not super common in this area, not giving him like a look of anger or hatred or surprise, but just more of like a, oh, huh, kind of look.
I act as though that was rude to say, and then I ask for 20 gold.
Well,
To
I
buy him
mean,
for 20 gold.
20 gold, it's, he is still looking over the book on House Tarmarian. Well, I mean, these are quite in the antiquities. It would be a shame to let them go for less than 22.
Did you say 22?
Aye. And I will say, as a mechanical aside, if you want to push the point, then it would be a persuasion roll.
Well, I do have in the back of my mind the idea of like a deception roll to say that no, that's actually like a book about boring census data, but I'm not gonna go for that. I'm fine with 22 gold.
Very well. He holds both of the books in one hand, and he holds out his other hand. He goes back around the counter, puts the books down, and kind of looks at you expectantly.
I give him the gold. The 22
All right.
of them.
Pleasure doing business with you, Gnome.
The same.
As an aside, your head barely clears the counter, so it's kind of comical. He's more looking at your top hat than looking at you, because it's really all he can see. So.
That's why I wear it.
All right.
That's not why I wear it, but it helps.
All right. So Rurik and Shigun, let me know if there's anything specific you're looking for. First, number one. If there is not, if it's just like general, just roll an investigation check.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just doing a general check to see if anything jumps out at me that might be useful.
Okay. Roll investigation. Because just as like a mechanical aside, if you tell me you're looking for something specific, it's going to be a different DC than just like, is there anything that I see? So.
Right. I see books.
Okay. With an 11, and with your knowledge, because you are a noble, you see very much the same. Let me just double check what languages you know. You know Elvish. Okay. You know Dwarvish as well, I think, right?
Yes.
Elvish and Dwarvish. I keep forgetting to write that down.
Oh.
There we go. You skim through the books. I think. I believe you were looking through the books. Is that right, Prudence? If you were looking for something specific, let me know what it is, and then roll investigation. Otherwise, just roll investigation.
I've completed the purchase on my character sheet.
Fantastic. So Shigun, you're scanning through. You recognize a few more of the books than Zook did before he cast Comprehend Languages. Nothing else. I will say roughly the same things that stood out to Zook stand out to you. You do see a number of books, and in their relation to the Great Kingdom. Of note, I feel like we talked about this, but I don't remember. Your house came into existence after the secession of Sundi from the Great Kingdom, so information about the Great Kingdom is very important to your family. So you do already know quite a bit of information about it.
Okay.
You do see a couple of history books here and there. You see a number of books referencing the Glorials, which are a minor contested area of Sundi that's owned by dwarves but claimed by Sundi, which I believe your house is from near that area. More or less, you don't see any specific information about Sundi House Tarmyrand or Dullstrands more than Zook has already found. He did take the one book that was labeled with the House Tarmyrand crest.
Right.
As you're searching, Prudence kind of not really looking at you, more looking at the books than at you. He just kind of pushes you aside as he's looking. Okay, so with your researcher background, is there? I gotta scroll up a little bit. So there wasn't anything specific you were looking for here, apart from like House Tarmyrand, Dullstrand, etc. Is that correct? Nothing specific. Okay. More or less, you find the same thing. You do find, as you sort of go down to the bottom shelf and you pull out a book, you notice there's another book behind it. You pull it out. It looks almost like a journal. Nothing on the binder. You flip it open. Let me double check what languages you know. You do recognize it. It is written in Dwarvish. The book, it looks more or less like a journal, more of a journal than a book. Each of the pages is dated within the last year or so. You look into the inside cover. Interestingly, do you recall? You would, because it's only been 2 days. The Crewy rune that you found on the box way back at the dwarven statue. You see that rune etched into the inside cover. And as you read through, yes, you do have it with you. It's on a piece of wood in your bag. And as you read through, it looks like the diary of a courier or a traveler, like someone who moves around the region a lot. He references different places. He references going back to Fandalo. He references going to Brenethar. He references going to other kingdoms. And as you flip through this book, you notice there are a number of entries in which he specifies that he goes to Dullstrand with, and he says, the package. He never once says what he's carrying, but this individual who wrote the book does actually catalog their entire journeys around the country. And it's been a busy couple of years for this individual. So there are a couple of places that he's been. He does mention going into Dullstrand a number of times. He does mention going into Fandalo, and he mentions going to the name of the location you don't recognize. He just says the Guild with a capital G. Okay, so you tuck it back away.
It's ringing alarm bells in my rogue mind.
You tuck it away behind the book on the bottom shelf. The book that it was in front of was just like a dictionary of Elvish letters. Make an insight check on the shopkeep.
Oh.
He's a businessman, and the book was in his business. Probably. He'd probably want to sell it to you. I mean, it was on the shelf, so... Oh my god, I have so many pings.
Ouija. Ooh, good boy. Ouija boy. I have some thoughts about this too, but I can't say them.
I mean, nothing is stopping you from having a conversation.
Well, my character doesn't know any of this.
Fair point.
It would be table
Yeah.
talk. Is
Thanks, guys, for not metagaming. You're the best. Okay, so you... just double checking... unfortunately, besides common, you don't share any languages. So you take the book and you nudge Zook. As he's completing the transaction, you just kind of walk up behind him and nudge him and walk away. Zook, you finish the transaction. Okay, I'll keep that in mind as a condition. I'll let you know if that happens. Zook, as you're finishing the transaction, you get nudged from behind. You look over, you see Prudence walking away. Roll your eyes, and you thank the shopkeep and walk over to where Prudence is. Prudence is, it's kind of hard to have like a place to hide in this kind of small space, but he's sort of standing in the corner. He's holding a small black, it's a journal. I'm just gonna say it's a journal. There's a small silk bookmark in it, and he, without saying anything, he hands it to you. You flip it open, and he says, as you open it up,
I cast comprehend languages. You can speak Infernal or whatever.
Well, so
I whisper.
So the language of the book you recognize. Also, you don't know he knows Infernal.
Well,
actually, roll.
Yeah,
roll
I don't know. That's why I said or something like whatever.
Roll an intelligence check. Actually, just to see if you know that all Tieflings know Infernal as a part of their bloodline.
I mean, it was a guess.
Right.
Genuinely on my part.
Roll an intelligence.
I will roll.
Regardless. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. You do mutter to him. You sort of hold out your palm that has the soot smudged into it, and you say I can speak. I can understand. You can't speak. Just point of reference. You say I can understand any language. Close your hand. You're holding the book. You open it up. It's in Dwarven, which I already said to Prudence. You don't know what the language is, but you can recognize it. You recognize the same thing. Prudence doesn't say anything other than in let's see.
Well, actually, I probably couldn't tell that it's Dwarven because I'm currently seeing it as common.
Correct. You don't know what the language is. I'm just gonna, for the sake of people paying attention, you don't know what the language is, but you do know what it says. You do know that it's not common. Like,
okay, what does it say? I wasn't paying attention when you were describing it to Prudence.
It's more or less a journal of some, like a courier or somebody who moves packages from place to place. Very prolific career. He references locations that you haven't heard of, and he references some of the immediate surrounding kingdoms. He references Dulstrand a couple of times. He references going to the Free City of Greyhawk, which is unusual because the Free City of Greyhawk kind of burned down, but he references going all over the place. And every time he returns to Fandalo, he says that he goes to the Guild with a capital G. As you flip open the book, Prudence kind of catches you and points at the inside cover, and on the inside cover is that same Crewy Dwarven rune. This one, because it's a singular rune, it's not a word. It doesn't change, like, you don't see the word, you just see the rune because it's not a whole word, it's just a letter. You would recognize this as the emblem that you found on the bottom of the chest at the dwarven statue that you saw a couple days ago.
Okay, when he writes the Guild, does it seem to me like he's talking about a thieves guild?
You know what? I will say roll an intelligence check, and if you don't have proficiency in intelligence checks, add your proficiency mod.
I will mention that it is, as of yet, an unspecified backstory detail where exactly and under what circumstance I acquired Thieves' Cant. And, how I'm this good at using a bow.
Well, you're a forest gnome. Forest gnomes are good at archery anyway.
Oh, yeah, fair.
But yeah, roll an intelligence check, and if you don't already have proficiency, add your proficiency mod anyway.
Yep.
14. You recognize this as... Thieves Guild might be going a little too far, but you do definitely recognize that this is the diary of a person who has something to hide. Like I think you asked me like in the very first session, Thieves' Cant in a written form isn't really, it's more of a code than a language. And you wouldn't know the code, but you don't recognize anything that would stand out to you as coded language. But there are definitely references to things that you know are part of the underworld. They reference fencing. They reference information coming from locations that are unscrupulous and so on. He references blackmail, things like that. You do recognize.
I should clarify. I should clarify for the audience and possibly the other party members. Fencing does not mean like the sport with the swords. It's the transfer and selling of stolen goods.
Right, so fencing is you acquire stolen good, you sell it to somebody, that's a fence, is the person who makes that transaction happen. Actually, Rurik, you'd be familiar with fences because you use that to acquire potion ingredients sometimes.
Yes.
And it's a thing that Zook may or may not have at some point done. So...
Wink.
That's the thing I know.
You don't recognize this specifically as like Thieves' Cant per se, because there isn't really written Thieves' Cant, but this is definitely the diary of someone who engages in such activities.
Okay. I ask what's so interesting about this journal. What struck Prudence's eye about this? What about this caught your eye?
Okay. Yeah, you hold the book, you turn it over.
Trying to learn about some context here.
For the audience, we're just waiting for Prudence to finish typing. Okay, so you mutter, with your knowledge that he has the spell that he can understand languages. I don't believe you know comprehend languages. You don't know the spell per se, but you recognize magic when you see it. In Infernal, correct, yeah. Zook, you hear this as Gnomish, your native language. Everybody else around you hears you speaking a deep, like, guttural language. And you say to him that, it has the symbol on it. We know this symbol. There's a lot of references to bandit dealings. It has a interesting references to locations within Fendhallow. It mentions Dolstrand. I think this could, if we can find, where this information is coming from, it would be a great help to us.
Seems like an important document. Do I suspect that the shop owner would know anything about the book's context or the coded language within it?
Make an insight check. Now that you've spoken to him, so yeah, make an insight check.
Why did I dump wisdom? I didn't dump wisdom. I have a 13.
Don't worry. From what you recognized when he was holding the book of House Charmyron in the language you didn't know, it was clear that he didn't know either. So you get the feeling he doesn't necessarily know the contents of every book that's in his store.
I recommend that Prudence purchase the book.
Okay. So
With
you hold
what?
it, you hand it back to him and say, "Yeah, you should buy
With what?
it." Yeah, he has 8 silver. Well, you don't know how much the book is, so.
Well, I reach into my pack, and I loan him 10 gold.
Okay. Yeah, he takes the gold from you. He's still holding it in his hand, the book in the other. Turns to the shopkeep and hands the book to the shopkeep. He doesn't say anything, just hands the book to the shopkeep, who flips it open. Zook. Just for shits. Make a perception check.
Sorry, what?
Just for shits, make a perception check.
Me do that?
Yeah.
When the DM says just for shits, it's never good.
Okay. Yeah, so as the shopkeep flips open the book, you see the same look of non-comprehension on his face. You don't know what language this is in because you saw it as common. It is a language he clearly does not know. He closes the book, hands it back to Prudence. Well, I mean, that looks like quite an old book. Why don't we
Can I retcon that I read it as Gnomish?
Yes, sorry, no, I did say you recognize these things as Gnomish. I did.
Yeah.
I did actually say that. Sorry. Yes.
That makes more sense.
Gnomish is your native language. Yes, why don't we say that? And Prudence stops him and says, it's less than a year old. And that's the shopkeep kind of it's there's lots of important information, and you say, I know it's from this year because the dates on it. You point at the first entry, which is roughly a year ago. Let's say 8 months ago or so. Yeah, and you hold the book out. He doesn't even look at the page. Well, I mean, it might be new, but it's the information in it is very old. So it doesn't matter much. I loved reading diaries in your free time. Okay, you say, well, I mean, it looks like a diary, and I love reading diaries in my free time. And well, I mean, it's just, as an aside, a peek behind the DM screen, because you flushed him, you don't have to roll, it's fine. Well, I mean, it's a diary. That's, of course it's a diary. That's it. What else could it be? It's, why don't we say it's 5 gold, and that's all it is. It's 'cause it's a diary. Okay, you say you hold the book up against your chest. I'll take it for 3 gold. You hold up 4 fingers, a gold in each finger, and 5 silver. It's well, I mean, it's he looks closely at the diary. Fine, 3 gold, 5 silver. We will call it a deal. Holds out his hand. Okay. You hand him the 3 gold and 6 silver. He's at the counter, so you place it down on the counter. He starts counting it out, and he slides one of the silver pieces back to you. You don't look down at the counter. You just maintain eye contact with him and don't acknowledge the fact that he slid it back. You said 5, right? I really wish you could see in the overlay on OBS like when somebody's typing, because to the audience it's just like, oh, we've stopped talking.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate.
For all of the two?
That's why I try to make a point to mention that he's typing
Yeah, the
when
two
it's
people
relevant.
who are watching right now. You wave him off. He slides the silver back. You take the book and you nod to your two companions in the room and walk out.
Well, seeing as my business here is done, I will follow.
Okay, Zook, you head on out. Zook follows you out. You hold out a hand containing the 6 gold. Not looking at him, you just kind of hold it out as you're walking away from him, and he kind of quickly... 7 gold. And he quickly snatches them out of your hand. Shigun, are you staying in the bookstore, or are you all set in there?
No, I think I'm gonna go ahead and head back with them.
Okay, you exit behind Zook. Rurik.
I've noted this on my character sheet.
I will say the amount of time that we spent, you have about 10 minutes before the rest of the group. Actually, wait, sorry. Remind me where you were. I've lost track. Were you still with the, looking for apothecary supplies, or were you, like, in the
No,
bookstore?
we completed that, and I was heading back towards Deer and meeting up with the rest of them.
That's right.
I assumed I was there with them.
You were just outside.
Everyone is at the Quilson's office.
That's right. You were just outside because you saw Deer. So as you're making your way towards the bookstore, you see the other 3 members of your party exit. Deer hoots in happiness, hops down and lands on Prudence's shoulder. Not quite, a little bit too close to his head. She's still not really comfortable with her size yet. She lands a little bit too close to his head. Prudence reaches up and hands her a little bit of like the dried meat that he has with him, and she hoots in happiness. All right, where'd you guys like to go? Looks like Prudence has said, "Well, I think it's in time for me. What do you guys think?"
I'm fine with Ian as well. We need to get this information copied.
Indeed.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Any cool books?
We will drop off the documents we borrowed in the morning.
Alrighty.
And then set off.
So you all make your way back to the Fate Straw.
Did borrow them.
So for reference, Commerce Guild is here. Fate Straw is right there. So it's not a very far walk. It's like a 5-minute walk. You make your way over to the Fate Straw Inn. Same familiar environment, draperies. The music is going. I unfortunately don't have the appropriate music for this environment, so we'll just have to call it a day on that one. But as you're walking, you're each sort of having your own conversation. Let me see. I think it's just becoming early evening. Sorry, let's say late evening at this point. As you're walking, Prudence holds out the little book and kind of awkwardly pushes his way into the conversations. Says, "Hey, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool book. We might have a lot of information in here." And you each kind of acknowledge him in your own way. You make your way back to the Fate's Draw. You enter into the tavern. At this time of night, it's relatively late evening, but the sun hasn't set yet, so it's a little busy, but it's not like the busiest you've seen it. You've definitely been there when it's busier. There are a number of tables open available. There are a number of people set at the tables. Some of them are dealing cards out to various patrons. Some of them are rolling dice with various patrons. You see a number of individuals drinking, eating. There are 3 bartenders behind the bar as usual. What would you like to do?
I'm gonna go secure lodgings for the evening.
Okay.
Since that seems to be my role when we come to the end.
Alrighty. Let me see.
So good at it.
You return to the bar. It is the same woman that you saw the very first night. Reddish hair, kind of larger frame. She lets you know it's 6 gold for 4 separate rooms, 4 gold for 2 double rooms, same as before.
We'll do the 4 gold for the 2 double then.
All right, sounds good to me. She goes behind the counter. Prudence, you approach one of the other bartenders. It's a young man. You have seen this young man before, just wandering around as like a waiter. It's a little weird to see him behind the bar, but he's there. You flag him down. I'd like some water, please. I have to, stay hydrated. He kind of gives you a nervous smile and goes back into the kitchen. Comes back with a clean glass of water, sets it down in front of you. I believe, was that Shigun that was talking to the bartender for the rooms, right?
Yes.
Gotcha, thank you. The bartender comes back, the other bartender comes back, she's got a set of 2 keys, hands them to you. Prudence, as the person sets the glass down, you take a silver piece, like press it to the bar and slide it across. He looks down at the silver piece, looks at you, looks down at the silver piece, looks at you. Oh, I mean, the water's free. I don't think that you need to pay for that. He looks kind of nervously over at the other bartender that's interacting with Shigun. You say, your service was excellent. Pick your finger up off the silver piece and just bring your hand back behind your side of the bar. He nervously takes the silver piece and tucks it into his back pocket. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. While this is going on, is there anything else the other two would like to be doing? Rurik and Zook?
While we're idling at the table, since this seems like not the sort of space to practice my tricks, and not really in the mood, considering the situation things recently learned, I am simply going to wind up the music box that I have and play it, just to listen to it.
That's right. You have a little gnomish music box. Remind me, there was something significant about the music that was from the box. Remind me what that was.
I don't remember this at all.
It was from the...
Right, this is something that me and Zook talked about. I don't think anybody else knows about this. So.
Table of trinkets. Oh. I'm gonna look for trinket.
Right, no, I know what it was. I seem to recall there was something unique to you, specifically, about the music that came out of this music. Like, it had some significance. Remind me what that was.
A tiny gnome-crafted music box that plays a song you dimly remember from your childhood.
Right, and I think did we talk at all about...
I have a song that I dimly remember from my childhood.
Right. Okay.
So we need not reproduce it here.
Well, I've got YouTube now. I don't want to get...
I'm playing it on my YouTube. It is not the safety dance.
So
you can roll if you want to. You can leave your dice behind.
So, you go to one of the tables, you wind up your little music box, and you sit at the table, you look at the music box, you kind of watch as the little mechanisms inside go, and the melody sort of plays, and it mingles with the existing music in the bar, and it very interestingly actually mingles with the music in the bar. And you feel a little bit better. You feel nostalgic, and you remember your childhood. A bartender comes by, not a bartender, excuse me, a waiter comes by and asks if you'd like anything to drink or eat.
Some water's fine.
Coming right up. Prudence, you take the drink in a couple of gulps. You put the glass down, express your gratitude, and make your way You take one of the keys from Shigun and make your way up. The rooms this time are on the second floor, so you just go up one set of stairs, down the hall, and into the doorway. Both of the rooms are next to each other. At this point, the staff is beginning to starting to recognize you, so they're starting to put you guys together. Rurik, is there anything you'd like to do during this time? I'd say it's like a 10-minute period, if that. So.
Yes. I'll approach the bar as best I can, being a short, one of short stature, and request a flagon of their finest ale.
Alrighty. You approach the third bartender at the bar. This is an individual you don't recognize. A relatively older elven gentleman. You see his ears peeking out. And he looks to be old even for elves. Like he walks with a bit of a crick. Looks down at you. You can see he's like suppressing a couple of things from his youth. A couple of feelings from his youth as he looks at you as a dwarf. Very well. He turns around, draws the flagon, and puts it in front of you. That will be 5 copper pieces, if you please.
I hand him a silver and tell him to keep the remainder.
All right, you hand him the silver piece. A very faint smile crosses his lips. As you wish. Pockets the silver.
Thank you, kind sir.
Alrighty. So you're drinking. Zook is at a table. I'll just say you were able to find an empty table. At this time of night, there are definitely empty tables that you were able to find. Shigun, you're finishing up your transaction with the bartender.
Yeah. I'm gonna order an ale for myself as well.
Okay. You see Prudence. Prudence takes one of the keys from you, goes up to the room. So you order an ale from the perky bar mistress. She says, "Yeah, that'll be 6 copper." And then, so just for ease of everything, I'm going to assume, unless you say otherwise, that you do the thing, that you pay the amount, unless you object. So, you hand her the 5 copper. She brings you an ale. So Rurik and Shigun are now at the bar with flagons of ale.
Drinking buddies.
Exactly.
It's not alcoholism if somebody's there with you.
That's right.
I say, looking at my 5th cider of the night.
I should try some hard cider sometime. That sounds nice.
Ouija.
So while you're here in the bar, do you want to like go over to the table where Zook is? Do you want to go up where Prudence is, or do you want to stay at the bar?
I thought they both left for the room.
Just Prudence did, I think.
Prudence went up to the room. Zook is currently sitting alone at a table, like listening to a small music box that you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And
I'll
looking very wistful.
I will sit down next to Zook.
I'm going to drink my ale at the bar, and once I finish, I will head to my room so I can work on the copying.
Okay, I'll just say for the sake of it, it takes you about, I don't know, you nursed it a little bit. It takes about 10 minutes or so for you to take the whole thing down, and then you head up and join Prudence. Prudence, up in the room, I assume you were going to start copying the scrolls, or is there something else you were going to be doing?
Oh, I thought Shigun was going to do that now.
Although, yeah, I don't know if you even have them. You might not have them in your possession.
All right.
I think the
That's why I'm asking.
the House Tarmyran scroll is. I think I have it at the moment. Do I?
I think you do. And then Shigun has the
Yeah,
book.
yeah, I do.
Well, I can always get what I need from Zook if I don't have it in my possession, just so I can start copying everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Just gonna make sure I keep. Oh, gotta refresh the K thing because there we go. I'm gonna make sure I keep everything in the book. I was gonna say that's a little weird. So make sure I keep everything in the book. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're starting to go through the book and like making sure you're not missing any important details. So it's like a bit of a deep read. Like you're slowly reading and you're taking notes on the side, like making sure that you really understand what the material is. Is that I'm understanding correctly? Fantastic. It's almost like I went to college and know what a deep read is. It's not worth it. Anyway. Yes, and
I will have
as
to inform Prudence about my intuitions later.
Oh
Alrighty.
dear, no.
and as you're doing this, you see Deer is starting to like hop around as a raven, and you stop her, and you again with your little telepathic link, you inform her, and you close your eyes for a moment. You visualize an owl like doing owl things, and sort of like start to train her on how to act in this new body of hers.
Teacher how to owl.
And after about 10 minutes, Shigun makes his way up to the room as well. Same room, or are you going to go into the other room?
Did Shigun like flag me down in order to pick up the scroll?
I don't believe he didn't say that he did. But...
If
You hear Deer speak. Oh shit! It's a lot easier to act like an owl when I'm an owl. Anyway, sorry. Go on, Shigun.
Yeah, if I'm missing one of the scrolls, I'm gonna grab it from Zook.
Okay, so on your way up, you swing by the table.
Yeah.
You ask Zook for the scroll, who I assume
I
will hand it to you.
Remember who had what? Yeah.
Is that?
So I'm gonna fetch that from Zook.
Zook, I assume you hand him the scroll.
Yes, I do.
Alrighty, you hand him the scroll, Shigun. You make your way up to the room.
I have that described on my character sheet as scroll on House Tarmarin and accusations against them, and now I don't because I deleted it.
Alrighty, so important point of fact, Zook, the writing that was originally on the scroll, right, was in common. The notes of like the things that were crossed out and the little notes on the side, those were in Gnomish. Which I don't believe Shigun knows. Although that being said, as a calligrapher, you can just copy one-to-one, so you're fine. You don't know what the words say, but you can copy the shapes of the letters. You'll be fine.
Okay.
So you make your way up to the room. I assume you get to work starting to copy those over?
Yes.
Alrighty.
If the rest of the party has left the bar and is going to their rooms, then once the music box finishes, I will do the same.
Alrighty, it's currently you and Rurik sitting at the table. Shigun, so question still stands. Are you going to the same room as Prudence, or are you going to the other room?
It
doesn't matter that much, but just for roleplay purposes.
I'll go in the same room.
Okay, same room. You have both keys with you. You have one of the keys with you. You knock on the door with Prudence. You don't hear a response, which you assume is fine, so you open the door and you see Deer making some very un-owl-like movements, and then making owl-like movements, and Prudence nodding.
Fascinating creature.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, the bird's pretty cool too.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Rurik, you and Zook. Rurik, you finish your drink. Zook doesn't really say anything. As soon as the music box finishes, he packs it away in his bag, and he makes his way up. And you did see where the others went, so you make your way up to that same room.
Memories of when I was younger.
And then do you follow Rurik? Just up to the room?
Yes.
All right.
I will join them in the same room.
Okay. You finish your drink. You bring your flagon back to the bar because you're a nice person, and go up to the room. And now all four of you are in the room.
Okay, so the guy whose diary you bought, I'm pretty sure he's a thief, or if not a thief, thief adjacent.
You meant that book you mentioned has it talked about how he returned to Fandalo many times, and in their travels, they went to Dolstrand several times as well. Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Yes. So in the journal, who was asking the question? Sorry, was that Rurik?
Rurik, yes. I'm attempting to re-ascertain information that I was not present at the time of original hearing.
Correct. Yeah. So yes, that's a basic assumption. Shigun, you know the language. Zook, Prudence, you know the language. Zook, you cast comprehend languages, so you know. Yes, the diary does reference going to Dullstrand a number of times, in addition to other surrounding areas. It doesn't seem to have any particular weight to Dullstrand in particular, but the fact that this person was going to Dullstrand stood out to you.
Yes. I may not be able to make much heads or tails of this book in the same light as the rest of you can, but the many trips to Dullstrand interest me in that I can't help but wonder if we could use this information to secure documentation for passage to Dullstrand to help Larasa in that way.
Sorry, is it Rurik speaking right now?
Yes, that was Rurik.
The book is in Dwarvish. You do understand what it says.
Ah, excellent.
It's
it's in
Dwarvish.
It's everyone except Zook knows the language of the book. I think Prudence. Yeah, you all know Dwarvish except Zook. And Zook, you cast comprehend languages, so you were able to read it while you were in the bookstore. Right. Obviously, that's worn off by now, but the book is in Dwarvish, so all three of you know how to read it.
I meant more so. I meant not as in being unable to understand it. I meant more so being affiliated with like this section of information gathering regarding like our objectives and stuff.
That's true, yeah. Also, you haven't read the book per se, so yeah.
Yes, that I was going by basically piecemeal stuff that Prudence had told me.
Yeah.
But it seems indicative of much travel with Durstrand that it might facilitate the acquisition of such documentation to allow passage there.
He seemed to operate between, let's say, subterranean markets, and so I suspect if this is to provide documents, the documents would be custom made.
Prudence says, I'm
being a little bit cryptic.
I'm not sure we want to deal with that kind of people. And turns to you, I mean, present company excluded, of course.
Well, of particular interest to me is this guild they mention. As a guild artisan, I'm somewhat intrigued, but given the nature of this document, I can't help but think it might be something more or less unscrupulous.
And I'm a bit touchy with what I say because I don't know how cleric-y the cleric is.
I think less scrupulous is a valid way of putting it. Lacking in scruples.
Yes, less scrupulous. So, yes, I'm unsure of the origin of this particular guild, but it does interest me. And
okay. Prudence kind of scans the situation and just says, I think if breaking rules is the problem, I think I'm the most uptight person here. And he kind of glances out the window towards the wall of the city. I'm not sure that's even so much a concern.
Wait, what was the guy's hub? That was it Fandalo? That he kept going back to see the guild in?
Yes. The guild is supposedly in Fandalo.
Okay. I mean, I haven't been to Fandalo before this trip, but I'm just wondering, like, if in my backstory I've ever had any, like, indirect contacts with this guild or people associated with it.
Let me, remind me, when you guys, in the very first session, when you guys entered Dullstrand, you entered with Prudence from the south, correct? Is that how it worked?
I'm not
I think it was
sure.
I think it was Rurik and Shigun from the north, and Prudence and Zook from the south. This only has a vague importance, but
I don't remember the orientation, but
Yeah,
Shigun and I came from the direction of Fandalo in the first place.
Which would be
I
north,
do
yeah.
vaguely remember coming from the north, but I don't know.
I might have gotten you backwards. It might have been the other way around. Anyway.
But I also remember coming from the direction that wasn't the way that went to Fandalo.
Yes, that.
So from the
So
okay.
our memories match.
I will say you do have a basic understanding of the cryptic nature of the work that you do as a rogue. Because your skills came more from lack of contact with civilization than like stealing from civilization, because you spent most of your life in the Gnome village, you recognize when there are dual meanings in the writing. I will say you have a very heavy reason to suspect, but you don't know for sure.
Yeah, but like it. I mean, I don't know. My headcanon regarding my character was during the time that I was working as an entertainer outside of my gnome settlement. I was doing some dealings as well, being... I mean, not really caring that much about the humans and, like, their business.
Okay.
Outside of as an object of study.
Yeah. So, side note, we should discuss this more further so I make sure that I get your details correct. But from what we have established now moving forward, as this conversation is going on, Prudence tosses Deer a little bit of meat, and she does that thing that owls do. She just like starts choking it down, and she points at it. He points at her and says, "Did you know owls don't chew their food? They swallow it whole, and you know the parts that they can't digest, they just..." And he starts to make like a throw up noise, like motion, like a vomit motion, and Rurik just goes, "It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Thank you."
I stop transcribing, look up, and then go back to transcribing.
Okay. But yeah, so Zook, from your dealings with the underworld, you do recognize that if it's not absolutely true, it's very heavily implied that there's underworld dealings going on with this individual. I mean, because the nature of you don't know this language, idioms don't translate perfectly well, but you're getting a pretty heavy vibe. Just from the language that was translated over 1-to-1.
Would I have any idea what kind of person to contact in order to become acquainted with this or similar guilds? I'm not expecting to.
I'm looking at the map of Sundi here, and I'm thinking about where you physically would have come from within Sundi. Whether you would have had interaction with this specific group or not.
I wonder if Rurik has
I will say
ever
you
mentioned...
do, A, as an urchin, and B, as a rogue, if you wanted to find a thieves guild, you would know how to find it.
My background is entertainer.
That's right, sorry, I keep getting... So, you're the entertainer rogue, and their bard has an urchin background in the other group. It's friggin' nuts.
Oh.
Anyway, I always get you two backwards, that's why, because you have each other's backgrounds. Anyway,
That's funny.
I would say it would take a check to do it, or like you can roleplay
I'm
it
imagining
out.
like in
It won't be
20
hard.
sessions when our parties finally meet, we can have like a real Avengers moment where we just banter.
Right, it won't be hard. It wouldn't be difficult. I would say just for the sake of it, I might have to have you make a check, or you can roleplay it out entirely and avoid the check. but you'd be able to figure it out. It's because you've had contacts with the underworld in the past, you know thieves can't. You know the things to say, and you know the people to talk to more or less in order to find that information. It might not be immediately obvious, like you don't know this city, so you don't know this city's underworld, or if this city has an underworld. But it wouldn't be difficult.
I can infer that it does.
But it wouldn't be difficult to find for you because you're a rogue.
Okay.
And I'm just rereading over the group.
I'm just evaluating my options.
Yeah, as a researcher, Prudence, if you knew where to start, you would probably have a good idea. If like you took a guess and started going along a chain, you would probably know which groups. You'd be able to find out. I would say you wouldn't know, but you would be able to find out which groups are associated with the underworld. Because very often, right, there are groups that have public fronts, and then they have the back, where they do their dealings. So, as a researcher,
I'm not sure I'd trust that.
You are a professor, so you are a little bit isolated from the real world, but you would know at least where to start looking, maybe historically, which groups have been involved in various activities. So, you know where to start.
Well, I mean, maybe my mindset is that if Prudence can discover a group that a group has underworld ties, then maybe that group isn't very good at having underworld ties, but I don't know.
That's for you to judge. you have this banter back and forth, and Prudence just says, "Rude," and starts scratching Deer like right about the neck level, as he starts making some very un-owl-like noises. So we are starting to run up against the end of our time. I will say, is there anything you guys would like to do before turning in for the night?
I wanted to make good on Prudence's earlier offer to allow me to read the book, and I'd like to take a look at that diary book that he found and give it a look over, and since it's in Dwarvish, is there anything about it in particular that I as a dwarf would recognize?
Okay. Yes. You take the book. While we're doing this, just for the sake of it, because I know you were doing this, Shigun, make a skill check with your calligraphy kit, which is just a dexterity save plus your proficiency mod with your calligraphy kit. You start scanning over again because you recognize the sigil, like the rune. You know its basic associations. There are a couple of things that with the 24 you copy over the scroll 1-to-1. It's not a forgery, like you're not trying to forge it, but the information is carried across even the gnomish that you don't know. I mean, sorry, you can't. It's too late. You can't. Once the roll's done, you can't replace the portent roll. So, but yes, so it's not a forgery. You're not trying to forge it, but it does copy over, and you hand it over to Zook, and Zook reads the gnomish, and he it's not perfect because he doesn't know gnomish, but it's all right. It's I can read this. Rurik, you start flipping through the journal. Because of your intimate familiarity with the language, it being your native language, there are a couple of nuances that the others may have missed. There are a couple of references to locations that don't exist, because they reference nearby areas that you traveled through that don't have anything else around them. I will say, just again, because we're running up at the end of our time, roll an intelligence check for me, just real quick, with advantage.
And then
And I assume
Yeah.
at the very end we're gonna do a long rest and update our character
is
sheets
that just
accordingly.
just a D20?
Yes.
Do question mark ADV plus your intelligence mod.
Oh, plus intelligence mod. Okay.
Yep. And then yeah, the session will end when you guys go to sleep. So.
Yeah, I update my character sheet in real time too.
As do I.
Okay. Yeah, you recognize a couple of dwarven idioms that aren't necessarily taught when people learn the language, and that would have gone over Zook's head because they would have just translated one-to-one over. They wouldn't have translated the idiom into Gnomish. It would have just translated the words. The guild that's constantly referenced is the runes that are used, the characters that are used to reference the guild is the characters that are used are it's a thieves guild. It's
For
thieves
some
guild.
reason,
It's either a thieves guild or it's like a group like a bounty hunters guild. It's the runes that are used are associated with the underworld. So it's
Okay.
definitely a group that acts outside of the legitimate rule of law.
for some reason, this person encounters pieces of cake when doing tasks.
I'll relay this to the rest of the party in that I can.
That didn't land.
Looking over these runes, I can definitely confirm that this is some thieves guild chicanery or possibly other illicit activity.
Okay. Right, exactly. So you excitedly start pointing out the idioms and the runes, and the rest of the group kind of just gives you a blank look, and you're like, all right, fine. And then you basically explain to them what you've seen.
I need to get a better spell.
So, with this information in mind, is there anything else you guys would like to do? It's just like the sun has set at this point. It's nighttime. Is there anything else you guys would like to do before turning in?
I can't think of anything.
I don't have enough time to do anything with potion nonsense, so I'm good.
I have nothing left to do.
Alrighty, so each of you pack your things up. The two of you, I assume probably Rurik and Zook, go to the other room. You make your way into bed and you go to sleep for the night. And since it is 10:04, we will end our session there. Yes, Deer never sleeps because Deer is a magical being that exists that comes from a world outside this one. And
Long rests fully heal you, right?
Yes, long rests heal you up. You get all your spell slots back, and if you expended any hit dice during a short rest to heal, you get half of those back. You get half of your maximum back. You don't get half of the spend one, so you get half of your maximum back.
Okay.
So at level 3 you would get 1, because that's 1.5 round down.
Correct. As you guys are starting to go to sleep, Prudence lets Deer out the window, and you just hear hoots at various distances as she flies around and practices being an owl.
That's bad.
All right, so thanks guys for watching. Thanks guys for coming to play. This is a lot of things, a lot of hooks that you guys were running into that I wasn't expecting you to. So now I got to do more prep work. But yeah, so thanks.
Sorry.
Thanks everybody
That's how
for
the
watching.
game works.
We're gonna discover all the hooks and not follow any of them.
Yeah, no kidding. Jesus.
It's like that SpongeBob episode.
Right. So thanks the two of you who are watching. I know one of you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing. Everybody have a good night.
Night.